For those of you that would like to participate in the Pledge of Allegiance, please rise. The flag is behind me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome you all to the 2023 deliberative session for the town of Wolfeboro. My name is Randy Walker, and I have the pleasure and privilege of serving as your moderator this evening. For those of you that are unfamiliar with the people up front, let me introduce you to them, and I'll start with the Budget Committee, and as I call your name, if you'd raise your hand, we have Chairman John McDonald. We have Bob Tuffer, who's the Vice Chair, Bob Lohman, Matt Plaish, Tom Bell, John Burt, Bob McColland, Brian Black, Steve Johnson, and then for the Board of Selectmen up on the stage, we have Chair Dave Senegal, Brad Harriman, who's the Vice Chair, Linda Murray, Luke Freudenberg, and Brian DeShays. And for others that you, other town officers, I'll introduce them as well. We have Town Manager at the end, Jim Pinio, our perennial Town Clerk, Pat Waterman. Town Council this evening is Nathan Fennessy. We have our Town Planner, Tavis Austin, who's in the back corner. Steve Randall, Director of Public Works. Catherine Carpentier is the Finance Director. Brenda Lapointe, our Tax Collector. Chief Rondo, Chief Zotti, Jason Durance is the Code Enforcement Officer, Christine Collins, Parks and Rec, Barry Muccio is Electric Department, and then Amy Muccio here is Executive Assistant to the Town Manager. So I'd also like to introduce my niece right here, Caitlin Murphy, who I appointed as Assistant Moderator this evening. She's served as Assistant Moderator for the past 3 years as well. Before we delve into any substantive issues, I would like to dispense with a few preliminary matters. There are a few people in the audience that may not be registered voters, and although we are more than happy to have you observe democracy in action, I would like to remind you that you're guests of the district and that you may not vote on any issue, and if you do, it's a criminal offense. The purpose of today's meeting is simply to discuss, debate, and explain those articles that we legally can, but ultimately the purpose is to determine the form of those articles that are going to appear on the ballot in March. So we're not going to vote on the substance of any articles tonight. We're just here to determine the form. Now, there's 40 articles that we will be voting on this year. Several articles will not be discussed this evening. Article 1, regarding the election of officers, you just simply vote for those people that signed up in the contested races. And we do have, by the way, 4 contested races. And if you'd raise your hand when I call them off, the selectmen, we have 3 people running for 2 spots. We have Dave Senegal, Linda Murray, and Jody Pearson is challenging them. For the Budget Committee, we have 3 people. We have 4 people running for 3 slots. We have Paul O'Brien right here. We have Brian Black, Steve Johnson, and John McDonald. Again, 4 running for 3 spots there. For the Planning Board, we have 4 people running for 2 positions. We have Steve Webster, Peter Goodwin, Roger Murray, and Steve Pecci. Again, 4 running for 2 slots there. And then for the Zoning Board, we have 3 people running for 2 slots. Suzanne Ryan is running again. Suzanne's here. Audrey Klein and Jody Person. So those are the contested races that we have. So we won't discuss any of that tonight. We also won't discuss Articles 2 through 10. Those are planning and zoning issues, and they've already held the statutory hearings regarding the planning board. So we're only going to discuss Articles 11 through 40 this evening. That's 30 articles. We have a lot of ground to cover. If anyone desires to amend a particular article or make a substantive motion, I'd request you reduce it to writing. I probably have 6 here at the moment, not hoping for more, by the way. But if you do want to make an amendment, please reduce it to writing. Give it to Pat or myself so that we can accurately present it to you, the voters. It's always appreciated, not only for myself, but for everyone else, that we keep it simple and straightforward so it's easy for everyone to follow. I also don't permit amendments to amendments on the floor at the same time. We'll just vote one amendment up or down, move on to the next one. We do operate under the auspices of SB 2, which has 3 procedural twists. Number 1, you can't kill an article by tabling or passing over it. Number 2, the default budget, which you'll find under Article 16, is not amendable, as that amount is fixed by law. And number 3, warrant articles whose wording is prescribed by law, you cannot change the wording in those articles. No warrant article can also be deleted to change. You cannot change it to eliminate the subject matter. You can change the dollar amount, you can change the intent, the purpose, the impact, but you cannot change the subject matter of it. So let me establish just a few other procedural rules that we followed in the past. Number 1, I do not adhere to nor follow any specific set of parliamentary rules. Number 2, I generally will recognize the person who submitted a particular article and let that person speak first. Now, Articles 11 through 34 were submitted by the selectmen, so I'll therefore select one of the selectmen to address that article first before opening up to everybody else. Articles 35 to 40 was submitted by petition, and I'll let one of the petitioners speak first to that article, again, before opening it up. If an article is not amended, then it will appear as is on the ballot in March. If we amend it tonight, then the amended version will appear on the ballot in March. For those of you that do want to speak, if you'd go to the microphone there, state your name, and please keep it as brief as you can. For those of you that have cell phones, this would be a great time to take them out, make sure that they're off so that they do not go off during the meeting. I'll also read each and every article before we discuss it for the benefit of those that don't have an annual report or are listening on the radio or on the television. And after an article is read, it does not need to be moved or seconded. We'll just jump right in. Anything we do tonight also simply requires a majority vote to either pass or fail. There's no supermajorities that are required this evening. And after a reasonable period of time has elapsed regarding discussion on a particular article, and after everybody has had a full and fair opportunity to speak, I would then entertain a motion to terminate debate or call the question, which I treat as synonymous. We only do this once a year, and I always waver on the side of letting everybody speak rather than prematurely or precipitously cutting off debate. You're also all aware that various motions can be made prior to a motion to adjourn, which may alter a prior vote, and I therefore encourage you all to stay until there actually is a motion to adjourn. Now, you can restrict reconsideration of an article or motion that has been previously considered by passing a motion to restrict reconsideration. If that should pass, we will not revisit that particular article or motion. And then finally, we will only discuss the subject matter of which appears in the warrant. It would be unfair and inappropriate to vote on or to discuss any new substantive matters which didn't appear in the warrant, because people may have come if they'd known that you were going to bring certain things up. Those are basically the same rules that we've had in the past, which we'll use this evening. And just as a reminder, we'll all vote right here, March 14th. The polls will be open from 8 in the morning to 7 at night. It's an 11-hour day. Anything you can do to expedite that process when you come would be greatly appreciated. So let's get to the substantive issues that we're here for this evening, and we can turn to Article 11. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,500,000 for the purpose of structural replacement, expansion, and renovations and equipment replacement of the public safety building. Further authorize the issuance of not more than $12.5 million in bonds or notes for this purpose in accordance with the provisions of RSA 33, the Municipal Finance Act, and to further authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds and notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon and the maturity and other terms thereof, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, and/or other aid, grants, and donations, if any, which may be available for said project, and that may reduce the amount to bond and to comply with all laws applicable to said project, and authorize the Board of Selectmen to take any other actions or to pass any other vote relative thereto. The estimated tax rate impact for 2023 is 0. For 2024 and 2025, it's 51 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation. It is unanimously recommended by the Selectmen and the Budget Committee, and in order for it to pass, since it's a bond, it will require a two-thirds vote. And you understand that, Dave, you're going to start us off on this?
Yeah, thank you, Randy. This project has been approximately 5.5 years that we've been looking at this particular project. We've had 2 architects. The architects we have now are Banwell Architects. We have CCI as a construction manager and Norway Plains Engineering doing the civil engineering work. The committee was made up of 11 people from the town, from the Budget Committee, the chiefs of different departments, and the assistant chiefs. So we now have a project that you will see up on the screen. All the preliminary work has pretty much been done, but I will turn it over to Jim for in detail information.
Thanks, Dave. As Chairman Senecal said, we've been in this project for the better part of 5 years. This is recognizing the members of our committee who have put in countless hours to get you a project that we believe is the best project that we possibly can going forward. For those of you who are interested, you can go to the town website. All the Public Safety Committee documents are available there, and there'll be more information which we received this afternoon, which will be there as of tomorrow. Here's a rendering of what the building will look like from the area of the library. What we have here is we've got a building where both agencies have currently outgrown the existing space. We've looked at phasing the project, and it's not conducive to be able to phase this over a number of years. We did evaluate a number of parcels of land in the community. None of them really met what we were looking for to take on this magnitude of a project. No matter what we do here going forward, all options are very expensive, and we've narrowed down the space programming very tight so that there's not a lot of room to cut in this. So what we're looking at for a solution is to renovate and expand on the existing site. In the future, we're going to have to still address the fire department substation site with something. And the current building is designed with a little bit of expansion in mind. As Dave said, we've got the engineers and architects working together with town staff and our construction managers. And something I will bring up toward the end of this evening, or the end of this particular presentation, is we may have to go upwards due to pricing, and our bond counsel advised us that less than $1 million increase is probably acceptable based on the bond hearings which we've already had. So when we look at the master plan from 2018 tells us that we really need to look at a solution to resolve the police and fire department facilities with current location and alternative locations being evaluated, including separate housing. We've done all of that. This summer we held a public input session. We came forward with 5 different options. At that session, it was quite obvious that the people who attended were interested in breaking this up into a phased project and looking at the fire department substation site on 109 to be the home for the new police department. Once that was announced and we began working on that site, we, at the same time, were putting out RFPs for different architects. We did that for a couple reasons. One, to ensure that we have the architects on board that are listening to us, and the architect who is giving us the best bang for our buck. Meanwhile, we received 2 petitions from citizens, about 30 signatories, advising they did not like the 109 location for the police station. They wanted it in the downtown area. As I said, there were about 30 people there, and if you look, when we had the public input session, we had 19 people who told us that they wanted the 109 site. We took that information to heart, we listened to what the people had to say, and we opened up the bids, qualifications for the final design, and we chose to change architects to Banwell. Main reason was we liked their pricing model. At this time, we have a small contract in place, and it's essentially an hourly rate for them to do work. And all the other contractors were giving us pre-bond work in excess of $400,000 to move this project forward. And we've ran into a great deal of satisfaction with their work that they've performed at the Pop Whalen project, and their references to projects similar to this were excellent. So we've got a layout here that keeps the existing administrative wing. It tears down the apparatus bay in favor of building some office space, 2 stories, and new apparatus bays. This complete building is just shy of 30,000 square feet, which is actually the same square footage that the previous architect recommended based on space programming. This simply lays out the second floor. We've been asked a question about why can't we repurpose the existing apparatus bay. It boils down to a couple of reasons. We have some code issues. The snow load for that particular building is inadequate. It's estimated between 40 to 45 pounds per square feet. And we're doing a greater than 30% modification to the building, so we have to meet current snow loads, which is in excess of 75 pounds per square foot, based on what the architects are telling us. We also evaluated the floor. Floor replacement was estimated at $150,000. To tear down that building, based on numbers received today, we're looking at $160,000 to tear that building down. We looked at a couple of different conceptual budgets. This lays out a police station located at the substation site or the water tower site, which was also discussed, which the community was not in favor of that location either, and keeping the fire department at the existing public safety site on South Main Street. Those 2 projects came in at $10,800,000, and that's strictly for construction costs. That doesn't get into a whole lot of contingencies or architectural engineering fees as well. So here's a concept of what the building looks like. When you look at the apparatus bay, you'll see a box there on the front of it. That's just a computer-generated artifact that was not removed by the architect. So I was asked a question today, will the apparatus fit in the building? Because it doesn't look like it will. Yes, the apparatus for the fire department will fit in the building. As we stated, it keeps the existing public safety building front in place and builds a fairly elegant building at the end of the day. This is looking at it from the northerly entrance. We have a sally port enclosed for police to take detainees right directly to processing, and we also have undercover parking for the police vehicles so that it makes it easier for highway to plow out and less difficulties in cleaning vehicles off when they need to respond. Again, here's an aerial version of what it looks like. The building does have flat roofs on the apparatus bays. That was discussed, and it was the best design to go with that so that it was clear open spaces in those areas without any columns, and it seemed to flow nicely. Back of the building, looking toward Main Street, we evaluated bonds, a 30-year bond versus a 20-year bond. There was no benefit in us going with a 30-year bond. We'd simply pay more interest, and we'd be saving about 2 cents on the tax rate. So we felt it was wise to go with a 20-year bond. So what we're looking at today, based on numbers we received, we have an estimated construction cost of $11,534,386. Recommended contingency just shy of $750,000. Architectural and engineering fees, $1,153,438, for a subtotal of $13,437,559. Now, we do have $300,000 in capital reserve, which means we are looking at a budget number of $13,137,559. Current warrant article is worded at 12.5, so we have a variance here of $637,000. And with that stated, I have an amendment which is in the moderator's hands.
All right, so I've been handed an amendment for this, which essentially takes the number of $12.5 million and increases it to $13,140,000, consistent with the number up here. Is there a second for that proposed amendment? So it's been seconded. Is there any discussion? The gist of the amendment would be to increase the 12.5 up by the 637. They rounded to 640. Seeing none, all those in favor of that amendment, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, that amendment carries. Is there any further discussion on Article 11 as amended?
Did you say it was a two-thirds majority vote, or because the warrant article says 3/5?
Can you speak into that microphone a little
I
better,
was
or come
trying
up to this one,
to, yeah.
Kathy?
So the warrant article says it needs a 3/5 majority vote, and I believe you said 2/3. I wanted to know which was correct.
So a two-thirds vote will be needed for it to pass in March. Tonight, we only needed a majority vote.
All right. And
Need 3/5.
I stand corrected at 3/5. Your math is a little better than mine, but everything we do today, just a majority vote, but in March, a 3/5 or 60% vote will be what's required.
okay, great. Thank you for the clarification.
Any further discussion on Article 11? If not, we'll move on to Article 12. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $4 million for the purpose of structural repairs, equipment replacement and expansion, renovations and engineering of the Libby Museum. Further authorize the issuance of not more than $1.425 million in bonds or notes for this purpose in accordance with the provisions of RSA 33, the Municipal Finance Act, and to further authorize the Board of Selectmen to accept at least $2.2 million in donations from the Friends of Libby Museum for this purpose, and further to authorize the withdrawal of $305,000 from the previously established Libby Museum Expansion and Renovation Capital Reserve Fund. Also to authorize the Board of Selectmen to withdraw funds from the Betty Jane Schroth Libby Museum Endowment in the amount of $70,000. Also to further authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds or notes and to determine the rate of interest thereon and the maturity and other terms thereof, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, and/or other aid, grants, and donations, if any, which may be available for said project, and that may reduce the amount of the bond, and to comply with all laws applicable to said project, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take any other actions or to pass any other vote relative thereto. The estimated tax rate impact for 2023 is 0. For 2024 and 5, it's 8 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation. This is recommended by the Board of Selectmen on a vote of 4-0 with 1 abstention. It is not recommended by the Budget Committee on a vote of 5-3. In order for it to pass in March, it will require a 3/5 vote. And understand, Brad, you're going to start us off on this.
Yes, thank you, Randy. The Libby Museum was built in 1912 by Dr. Libby and taken over in 1956 by the town of Wolfeboro by a town meeting vote, and established a Libby Museum Trust with the Board of Selectmen acting as trustees. Over the years, the building is showing its age. The walls are shifting. There have been structural issues with the floor, and there's a major issue with mold in the walls. Turnbuckles have been added to stabilize the walls, so they're now moving in unison. The support beams under the floor have been stabilized. Another major issue is there's no climate control. This is causing deteriorations within the exhibits. There's fur falling off animals and feathers off of the birds, let alone the health hazard to the employees and visitors being exposed to the mold. So in 2019, the Friends of Libby Museum brought forward a plan to renovate and expand with a small addition in the back to house the mechanical systems, bathrooms, an office, and a meeting room. The Friends of Libby Museum have committed to raise $2.2 million toward this project, which is a huge undertaking. They have also committed to raise an endowment which will eventually provide funds to take over the daily operation of the museum from the town. This is a great partnership and an opportunity for the town, and I ask for your support for this warrant article. I'll now turn this over to Jim for more details.
Thank you, Brad. As Brad said, this project has been underway for a number of years. We have put some funds away in a capital reserve fund for renovation, expansion of the facility going forward. The master plan does identify studying the Libby Museum for site and expansion improvements for the Libby Museum of Natural History. We have looked at that. Further, the master plan identifies the town of Wolfeboro as future expansion to museums and trying to become a museum hub of New Hampshire. So the museum, specifically the Libby Museum, is heavily spoken about in our master plan. This summer, we received pricing from Cobb Hill, which provided us a ballpark estimate of what it would cost to renovate and expand Libby Museum. The Board of Selectmen worked with me, and we decided to go forward and ask for a second price to look at the project. Bowen Corp came back. They said between $4.2 and $4.7 million for this project, and they came back and said, if you can get this project done for $4 million, sign the contract. This lays out some of the differences between Alba Architects, Cobb Hill, and Bowen Corp. So we've done our due diligence on trying to get you the best price on this project going forward. We anticipate getting updated numbers as we move forward. One of the big differences in the project was the contingencies between the Bowen quote and the Alba quote, but we think we've got that captured in the project as we move forward, and we're still awaiting more information from Cobb Hill, Alba. We just had a conversation with them late this afternoon, and they're still working on updated pricing. This is a idea of what the renovation and expansion will look like from the back of the building, looking toward Lake Winnipesaukee from Lang Pond Road, and that is what you have for a Libby Museum project. We'll try to answer any questions you have. Mr. Moderator.
Any questions, comments, any discussion?
I have a comment, Mr. Moderator.
Where's that voice coming from?
Right here.
Steve, go ahead.
So I was not at the Budget Committee session when this was voted on. As you can see, it was not recommended by the Budget Committee by a vote of 5-3. That means not recommended. Had I been there, I would have voted against it also. I was in Virginia watching my grandson play his violin at a concert, so I couldn't attend this meeting. But I just wanted to let the public know that had I been there, I would have voted against it as well, which would have made the vote not to recommend by the Budget Committee 6-3.
Any further comments, questions? Chief, and then Pat.
Hello? Okay. I initially was not in favor of this project at all, but I changed my mind at the Budget Committee meeting that Mr. Johnson is talking about, and here are the reasons why. They have a clear vision and way out for the town of the museum business, number one. Number two, right now we're on the hook, whether we like it or not, we're on the hook for the Libby. I would rather be on the hook for $2 million than $4 million. And I think that really is what it boils down to. So if we as an electorate vote this down and we don't vote for it, we're still stuck with it. And it's going to be a bigger pot of money. So do you want to get taxed on $2 million or do you want to get taxed on $4? That's all there is to it. We own this thing whether we like it or not. So I'm supporting this because it makes good fiscal sense to do so. Thank you.
Patty, and then Suzanne. Nope. I get Patty first, Suzanne, and then you. Yeah.
Patty Cook. Just two quick design questions. I want to clarify.
You talk a little louder there.
Sorry, is it on? What do I do?
Just get close.
Just get close. Do I talk down? Is that working?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll stand low. I'm confirming that what we're looking at is the side facing the street and the lake, correct?
Oh.
No. Are we going to get to see the side that faces the road?
The side that faces the road essentially looks exactly the same. The only exterior changes at this point are the rear of the building looking toward Lake Winnipesaukee from Lang Pond Road, which is this addition.
Okay, so I don't want to open up the can of worms, but number one, on that left section, I'm seeing all windows. And currently on the lake side, and this is catch-22, that is the view to the water, and there's mostly solid structure facing the lake. I'm asking, has anyone worked with the museum specifically to talk about their layout and how they're using the space so that, in fact, the solid walls are against the back and you are seeing some light and views to that lake? Because it's an underutilized view and building, in my opinion.
So Alba Architects, all I can say is this was the proposal that they brought forward. We are working with a museum specialty company for the relocation, storage, and reinstallation of the artifacts.
Okay. Well, that rendering is in fact showing windows on the lakeside where currently I don't think they are. And so that was my question.
We have windows up on the top at the lake.
Very high, but that rendering is not what that's showing.
Yeah, it is. It does show them the same way, kind of.
Kind of.
It's an optical
They're
illusion.
much higher than what is there. And my question is, as far as use for the building long term, clearly they need display area. And I'm just making sure that's factored in.
I agree with you. And I do know, if you've been in there, that they do use all the wall space.
I know, and that's what's very hard at that kind of building.
Yeah.
There's workarounds about that, but I'll let you.
Suzanne?
Can somebody make this go up?
Raise that up, Tavis.
I would like to make a correction here. We're not going to be on the hook for $2 million. We are bonding $1,425,000. This is an excellent deal for the town. We've already put away $375,000 for this. We add the bonded new money, $1,425,000. Our share in total will be $1,800,000. The Friends are generously donating $2,200,000. That brings us to the $4 million. They're giving us more money than we're raising. I can't walk away from that.
Thank you. Tom?
Tom Goodwin, Wolfeboro resident and chair of the Friends of the Libby Museum.
Pull it back up.
You know, if you can raise that, Tom. You're creative, we'll give you that. Hey.
What you've heard before is essentially correct. Even with a no vote, we are on the town is on the hook for the the maintenance and restoration of the building. The foundation needs to be redone. The structural integrity of the existing building, the walls are shifting. That has to be taken care of. There is mold to be remediated that's not just on the wall, it's growing through the wall. So it's not just clean it off and put a coat of paint on it. It's structurally in the building. All of those have to be addressed as maintenance. And it was estimated that would be at least $1.5 million on the town's money. Not this year, but in very shortly. So what you're presented with here is spend the money now and get a beautiful upgraded facility, bringing it into the 21st century with a mezzanine area that will allow you to look through those windows and see the lake out there. As a historical building, we really can't change the look and feel of the building from the front, from the lakeside. What you're looking at here is the new entrance from the back parking lot. We're also getting office space, collection space, artists gallery, children's educational centers, ADA compliant access and bathrooms, and an expanded exhibit space. All of this is in this current proposal. If you vote this down, the town is on the hook to spend the same amount of money, and in the end, they would get the building as it exists today, with none of these upgrades, and probably not even with the heating and air conditioning needed to maintain the collection in the future. This is a sweet deal. We've worked very hard on the private part of this, and this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. So a no vote doesn't save the town money. What you're voting no to is no upgrades and no future partnership on the operation. That's where we stand, and that's what you're voting no on if you don't vote in favor of this. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you very much. So, good evening, everyone. My name's Lauren Hammond. I've been living in Wolfeboro for 45, 50 years, close to that, within that range. I went to the museum as a kid. I brought my kids there. I taught art there, and I also was a director for a short while. I have a kind of an interesting point that might be a little bit obscure, but as you all know, the Friends have raised $2.2 million, but much of that money has graciously come from donors from the town of Wolfeboro, but much of it has come from support from outside of the town of Wolfeboro. Now, in March, the townspeople have the right, the opportunity to vote yes to this project, but there is a tremendous amount of support that has been donated and given to the museum that is coming from people who are not allowed to vote yes to this project. So what my point really comes down to this evening is that there is a lot of support for this project. Not everyone can vote yes, but we have had significant donations coming from people outside of town limits. So to me, that says a lot about what we have before us. There's been a lot of, conversation and mistruths and untruths about things that are happening here, but this is a really good deal for the town. $2.2 million says it all. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on Article 12? Seeing none, we will move on to Article 13.
Restrict reconsideration on
So it's been
11 and 12.
It's been moved to restrict reconsideration on Articles 11 and 12. Is there a second to that? Second. All those in favor of restricting reconsideration, which means we will not revisit those this evening, please say aye. Aye. All opposed. So we will not go back to 11 and 12. Thank you, Suzanne. Moving on to Article 13, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1 million for the purpose of engineering and installing sewer extension on Forest Road in the area of Cary Beach and Varney Road in the area of French Street. Further, to authorize the issuance of not more than $1 million in bonds and notes for this purpose in accordance with the provisions of RSA 33, the Municipal Finance Act, and to further authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds and notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon and the maturity and other terms thereof, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to apply for, obtain, and accept federal, state, and/or other aid, grants, and donations, if any, which may be available for said project, and that may reduce the amount of the bond, and to comply with all laws applicable to said project, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take any other actions or to pass any other vote relative thereto, and to authorize the town manager to sign any relating documents. The estimated tax rate impact for 2023 is 0. For the years 2024 and 2025, it's 6 cents per $1,000 assessed valuation. This is unanimously recommended by the Selectmen, recommended by the Budget Committee on a vote of 6-2, and will need a 3/5 majority vote to pass in March. And Linda, are you going to start us off on this one?
Yes, I am. This water article is addressing two sections of the town where the septic systems are not working well or are in failure. The Varney Road proposed extension is in the area near Friend Street where the land is low and wet. The Forest Road extension will run from the end of Sewell Road down past Jockey Cove to about Hopewell Point Road. For some period of time over the last 2 summers, the water in Jockey Cove has tested high for E. coli, and in fact, higher than EPA E. coli standards. This is a health issue that needs to be addressed with this new sewer line. The water quality of Wolfeboro's lakes, ponds, streams is critical to the health and well-being of our community, is a major reason why most tourists come to Wolfeboro, is a key driver of the town's economy, is a significant reason for all the second homes, and is the largest asset in keeping Wolfeboro's tax rate low. And I will turn the presentation over to the town manager.
Thank you, Linda. So as Linda said, we've got 2 areas here where we have documented cyanobacteria, E. coli contamination. Cary Beach and Jockey Cove, very prominent. There is challenging topography in those areas for the properties to be able to install approved septic systems. In fact, there are a number of systems which have been designed in failure. So we've got some action to take on that going forward. So we've got 2,300 feet approximately on Forest Road, 900 feet on Varney Road. The plan here is to install low-pressure extensions. They're going to tie into existing lines and will require the property owners to install some of their own infrastructure to be able to utilize the system, such as septic tanks, pumps, etc. They'll be required to maintain those. System designer is actively working on pricing. We just got the maps today, or not today, earlier this week. They got programmed into the slide presentation today. This shows you Forest Road and Sewell Road. We're looking at approximately 2,500 feet based on their estimates, with 12 people being connected. When we rebuilt Cary Beach parking lot a couple of years ago, the previous town engineer had the foresight to be able to put pipes in the ground, so we will not have to dig that parking lot up to be able to make some of those connections going forward. Further, this is Varney Road, lays out the system. Pretty straightforward. We've got several of these in town, and they seem to work quite well. We, as the Board of Selectmen, does have the authority to be able to require people to connect and establish a fair connection fee, which we'll be working on as we go forward. That is the end of this article. We'll try to answer any questions the public may have.
Is there any questions or comments on Article 13? Seeing none, we'll move on to Article 14 to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $2 million for the purpose of replacing vintage water mains and on South Main Street from Center Street to the Smith River Bridge. Funds shall be utilized for engineering fees and water line replacement. The amount of $1.69 million shall be funded from the Water Enterprise Fund. This expenditure shall not result in any increase in the tax rate. Further, authorize the issuance of $1.69 million in bonds or notes for this project in accordance with the provisions of RSA 33, the Municipal Finance Act, and to further authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue, negotiate, sell, and deliver such bonds or notes, and to determine the rate of interest thereon and the maturity and other terms thereof, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to participate in the State Revolving Loan Fund, SRLF, RSA 486:14, established for this purpose, and to allow the Board of Selectmen to accept such monies as become available from the federal and state governments, and to authorize the Board of Selectmen to take any other action or to pass any other vote relating thereto, and to authorize the town manager to sign any relating documents. The town has been awarded a New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services American Rescue Plan Act grant, the amount of $310,000. The estimated tax rate impact for this for the years 23 through 25 is 0. It's recommended unanimously by the Selectmen and the Budget Committee and will require a 3/5 vote in order to pass in March. And Brad, you're going to start us off on this one.
Thank you. Yeah, the water line from Pickering Corner to the Smith River Bridge downtown is one of our vintage water lines. These lines were installed over 100 years ago. These lines installed over 100 years ago often use lead as a sealer in these joints, and they are undersized for the demand that they're supplying now. As the warrant article states, there is no tax rate impact associated with this article at all. So I ask for your support for this warrant article, and I'll turn it over to Jim for further details.
So this is built into the water users' rates, so that's why there's no tax rate impact. When we look at the asset management plan for the water system, it shows the South Main Street from the bridge to Pickering Corner to be replaced between 2024 and 2027 with a priority 1 on the project list. We're asking you to approve this year. The fact of the matter is this project probably will not take place until the the spring and probably fall of 2024. One of the things that's going to be challenging about this project is there's going to have to be a temporary water line installed. The map here kind of lays out the arrow on your right side shows Pickering Corner, and then the arrow to your left shows the Smith River Bridge based on our water system mapping. So we've got some really good news on this project. Project cost is currently estimated at $2 million. We've received $310,000 in ARPA grant funding, so we've got a bonded amount of $1,690,000, but there's a potential of up to 50% in loan forgiveness, which means that if that actually comes into play, we'll only be paying $845,000 for this $2 million project. Again, that's not guaranteed, but we think that this is a good option. It's a high priority project to get done, and you're going to be hearing a lot in the coming years about vintage water lines.
Any discussion on Article 14? Seeing none, we'll move on to Article 15, which is to see if the town will authorize the Board of Selectmen to enter into a long-term lease purchase agreement in the amount of $850,000 payable over a term of 5 years for the purpose of entering into a lease purchase agreement for the replacement of fire department engine/pumper, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 in 2023 for the down payment, to be followed by 4 annual payments currently estimated as follows. For the 2023 year, again, it'd be $200,000. 2024 through 2027, it'd be $182,414. This lease/purchase agreement does not include an escape clause. The estimated tax rate impact for for the 2023 year is 8 cents per thousand, and for the following 4 years would be 7 cents per thousand. This is unanimously recommended by the Selectmen as well as the Budget Committee, and because it's a bond, it will require a 3/5 majority vote to pass in March. And Linda, you're going to start us off on this one?
Yes. The town staff, the town manager, and the Board of Selectmen looked at 4 different ways to fund the purchase of a new engine pumper truck for the fire department. All parties agreed that an outright purchase was too big of an impact to the tax rate. 3 large payments to the fire truck and apparatus capital reserve over the next 3 years was also too big an impact to the tax rate. The Board of Selectmen decided that a lease of the truck with a 5-year lease instead of a 4-year lease, since the 5-year lease was only $4 more than the 2022 payment to the fire truck capital reserve fund, and the payments in 2024, 2025, and 2026 and 27 will be $1,586 less than the 2022 payment to the capital reserve fund. And with that, I would like to turn it over to our Fire Chief, Tom Zotti.
And Tom?
Thank you. I'm sure it's working. Basically, what you've heard is pretty much what we're asking. In a nutshell, in past years, most people are aware we have asked for $196,000 a year in capital reserve to fund our apparatus replacement. What we're essentially proposing with this is to spend that same money but slightly differently. Due to a number of incidents or situations, we find ourselves in a position of asking to replace our engine 4 a bit early. So what we were able to develop, as Mrs. Murray indicated, was a 5-year project, a 4-year lease purchase to, in the end, replace engine 4 starting this year. The proposal on the table would allow us to purchase a similar vehicle to our engine 1 and have it delivered at approximately the first of the year next year. This will help us in a number of ways. As you see from the slide, what we're faced with engine 4 is a couple of things. Number one, it's kind of tough to see on the slide, but what we're finding is rust between the 2 sections of the frame. The frame of the vehicle is essentially 2 separate pieces formed together, and what we find or found is rust, probably primarily caused by road salt and that sort of thing. We're in the Northeast after all. Has gotten in between the frame and is starting to expand it. At this point, it's manageable. If you look at the truck today, it doesn't look like that because we've had it undercoated and cleaned in an effort to slow this rust down. But it's a matter of time, and what we're hoping to do again is get it in line to be replaced in fairly short order. The second issue we face with engine 4 is there's a significant problem with the engine that we've been able to manage by routinely changing out a number of filters and so forth. There's a pressure buildup that I'm not sure I'm the best at explaining the mechanical issue, but we've been able to manage it. To actually fix it would be in the neighborhood of a $20,000 repair for a vehicle that's only scheduled to be in service with us for a couple of more years anyway. So essentially, putting these two together is why we are here today asking for your support for a lease purchase for its replacement. We have identified a vehicle from a manufacturer. We've got a quote for the 4-year lease purchase. They're holding the vehicle and the price for us, pending the outcome of the vote at town meeting. And at that point, I'd be happy to try to answer any questions anyone may have.
Any questions on Article 15? Any comments that anybody would like to make? Yes, sir. Bob.
One quick comment on the language of the warrant article. I think it ought to be pointed out very clearly to the voters that this, in fact, is replacing the capital reserve contributions. And I would suggest an amendment that would include that language in the warrant article so the voters understand that the lease purchase is a substitute for the replenishment of the capital reserve account that we've been doing for these many years. I know the chief mentioned it, but I think the voters need to understand it, and it needs to be part of the warrant article.
So are you trying to make an amendment, Bob, or are you just
Yes,
pointing out
I would
that
like
we
to make
might
an
wanna do
amendment
that?
to a statement that says that the lease purchase agreement replaces the annual contribution to the current fire department equipment capital reserve.
Okay, just give me a minute. So it replaces the annual contribution to the fire department's capital reserve. All right, so it's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion regarding that proposed amendment? Yes, ma'am.
Hi, Julie Jacobs. Is that just for 1 year, Bob? Or
No.
for 4 years, are we going to
No, it's
skip it?
for the balance, for the whole 5-year period that this lease purchase agreement.
So for the next 5 years, we're not going to add to the capital reserve, is what you're saying?
That is correct.
Is that what you wrote
We
down?
will not be we will not be spending $186,000 every year for 5 years. This replaces it.
That's what you wrote down?
That's what I wrote down.
Okay.
If I may, that's been the intent. Again, I alluded to it, perhaps I should have chosen my words better by saying this is intended to spend the same money slightly differently. This works in our long-term capital reserve program because our next vehicle purchase, should we be successful here, would not be until approximately 2034. So we do have a smaller purchase scheduled for a few years out from now. This project and the existing balance in capital reserve allows this idea to work in the long term.
Any further comments on this? Yes, ma'am. So, Bobby, if you want to speak, come up to the microphone, and then the lady in the red can go next.
Thank you. Would you just read it back?
Yeah, so where I was going to put it was after $850,000, and then put in parentheses to replace the annual capital contribution for the fire department's capital reserve fund.
5 years.
For 5 years. Is that what you had, Bob?
Yes, over the term of the 5 years for the purpose of entering into it. So basically, my language is going to insert, and I think it looks like after the $850,000 payable statement in the first sentence.
All right, so I'll just read it back again. After the $850,000, parentheses, to replace the annual capital contribution to the fire department's capital reserve fund for 5 years, end paren, and then continue on.
Correct.
Did you want to say something, ma'am? If you do, please come up to the microphone. That doesn't work. That does not work. You've got to come to the microphone. You've got people on the TV up here and the radio that cannot hear you.
I just wanted to thank the fire department, the police department, and all who fought that fire at Hunters. You did a tremendous job.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All right, we'll vote on the amendment then. All those in favor of the amendment, which I'll read one last time after $850,000 to insert the words parentheses to replace the annual contribution to the fire department's capital reserve fund for 5 years, end paren. All those in favor of that proposed amendment, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Is there any further discussion on Article 15 as amended? Seeing none, I will move on to Article 16. And before we do that, I'd entertain a motion to not reconsider Articles 13, 14, and 15. Second, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, we will not reconsider Article 15 and back. We'll now move on to the operating budget. Shall the town raise and appropriate as an operating budget, not including appropriations by special warrant articles and other appropriations voted separately, the amount set forth in the budget posted with the warrant or as amended by a vote of the first session, for the purposes set forth therein, totaling $31,226,190. Should this article be defeated, the operating budget shall be $30,669,065, which is the same as last year's operating budget, with certain adjustments required by the previous action of the town or by law of the governing body. I think that should say, or the governing body may hold one special meeting in accordance with RSA 40:13, 10, and 16 to take up the issue of revised operating budget. Only the estimated tax rate impact for 2023 is $5.24 per $1,000 of assessed valuation. This has been unanimously recommended by the Selectmen and the Budget Committee. And John, Chairman of the Board, the Budget Committee is going to address this one for us. So, John.
Thank you, Mr.
Say it with some conviction, John.
Yeah, I know. Can you help me out up there? Okay. All right. Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I just want to, we'll go through a slide presentation, see a lot of the different departments and where the increases and decreases are. Prior to us getting the 2023 budget, the town manager set a couple of goals for the town. One was he didn't want more than a 7.5% increase over the 2022 operating budget. And what the town manager delivered to the budget, to the Board of Selectmen, was an exact 7.5 increase. But as we go through the budget, you'll see things have changed as more information becomes available to the Selectmen and the Budget Committee. The next slide shows how your money is spent to all the different sections. You see the big fund is the general fund. That's 55% of the tax dollars we raise. Then we've got the electric fund, which is 33%. Then we go to the water fund, which is 6%. The sewer fund, which is 5%, and then we've got the Pop Whalen fund, which is 1%. Here's a kind of a comparison from the past couple of years. The 2022 over 2021 budget was a $1,091,693 increase. The department heads for 2023 had proposed a $1,935,267 increase over the 2022 budget. Town manager came through with an increase of $1,454,416 over 2022. Board of Selectmen came in at $1,494,499 over 2022, and we are proposing a $1,472,895 increase over 2022's budget. So we'll go through the different lines of our budget. The first one we do is general government, which is the executive, and we've got an executive increase of $5,659 over 2022. We'll go to the zoning board. That's an increase of $1,120 over 2022. Planning board is an increase of $4,462 over 2022. Town clerk budget is an increase of $6,291. Finance budget is an increase of $39,241. Assessing, we have an increase of $6,344. Tax collector, we have an increase of $1,947. Legal expenses, an increase of $10,000. Personal administration, $2,298,411. That's an increase of $61,181. That includes all our health and dental insurance for all the town employees. Miscellaneous operating expenses, $5,600, an increase of $100. Planning Department, we have an increase of $7,693. Brewster Building increase, $36,012. Cemeteries, total budget to take care of all the cemeteries in the town is $29,485. Property liability insurance went up $15,173. Technology increase, $24,752. Get into the public safety, the police department, we have an increase of $71,556. Ambulance services, which is by a contract, we have an increase of $8,038. Fire department increase of $185,138. If you recall from last year, we made a commitment to the, by passing the budget, of giving the fire department 3 new people over the next 3 years. So this is the second year of that commitment. They'll have 1 more year next year for their 3rd person. And that's where some of the increases there. Codes Department, a decrease of $21,692. Emergency Management, increase of $2,642. Public Safety Building increase, $2,146. Communications increase of $32,779. Now we'll get into the highways and streets. Town engineer, a decrease of $9,247. Highways and streets, an increase of $184,161. Public Works Garage, an increase of $25,865. Public Works Grounds and Maintenance, a decrease of $56,076. Solid Waste, I have an increase of $42,958. Health Officer, an increase of $2,181. Animal Control, an increase of $1,644. And then we have the agencies. These are all the groups that the community benefits from the services. And we have a decrease of $2,222. Health and Welfare, we have an increase of $9,504. Now we'll go into the Parks Administration budget. We have an increase of $27,270. Park Maintenance increase, $12,545. Beaches increase, $10,904. As I recall, some of that increase is due to Brewster Beach requiring us to have a lifeguard on duty all the time whenever the beach is open. Abenaki, we have an increase of $33,762. Hockey rink, got an increase in the program's total budget of $28,601. Community Center, an increase of $1,383. Town Docks budget, we have an increase of $9,231. And as I recall, that money is going to be used, if you guys went down there, if you folks went down there this summer, we had people in the docks helping them tie up boats and things, and that's what they're going to do again this year. That's going to help the folks when they come in and dock. Okay, let's go to the library. Got an increase of $32,747. Patriotic Purposes, we have an increase of $4,144. Libby Museum, have an increase of $2,583. Clark House is the same at $12,692. Conservation Commission is an increase of $308. Economic Development, an increase of $65. Now we'll get into the debt service. This year, we're looking at an increase of $376,436 on the debt service. The intercompany transfer decrease in sewer debt is down $16,955, a decrease. Proposed capital outlay, it's an increase over 2022 of $77,845. You'll see what everything's going to be spent on. The upgrades for the current fireboat, hopefully doing those, we'll get another 10 to 15 years out of the current boat before we have to buy a new one. The boat number 2 is a small motor replacement for the smaller boat. Parks and Rec wants to do some work down at the Foss Field. And then they've got to do some work also at the Brewster Beach concerning the septic system down there. And technology upgrades basically deal with all the computers that we have throughout the town. Okay, here's a summary of the general fund increase. 2023 general fund operating budget is $17,062,011. The general fund operating budget for 2022 was $15,750,441 for a total increase of $1,311,570, which represents an 8.33% increase over 2022. And down here, you'll see what some of the large drivers are. The salaries, the dental insurance, liability insurance. Big one is gasoline, diesel, and propane and oil. And then we've got some more debt service. Larger driver increases total $740,692. And then we've got a capital outlay increase over 2022 of $77,845 for the total increase on these particular items of $818,537, which is 62.4% of the 2023 general fund increase. Water Enterprise Fund, you see a total increase of $3,014. Water Distribution, we've got an increase of $83,380. One Enterprise Fund funded by fees and other revenue, we have a decrease in the water treatment plant of $39,840. The capital projects for the water department, we have a decrease of $25,000. As I recall, I think this pickup truck is going to be it's going to be all electric. That's why it's a little bit more. They're going to try that out to see how that works in the water department. Okay, Electric Enterprise Fund. You see the health insurance, technology, MED administration, distribution, generation, capital outlays. At a 2023 request of $10,447,969. That's over the 2022 budget. It's an increase of $70,532. As we know that the enterprise fund is something that's paid by the users, so that doesn't have an effect on the tax rate. Administration fee in electric has an increase of $67,691. Enterprise fund funded by other fees has an increase of $64,436. Electric generation total budget decrease of $143,008. Proposed electric enterprise funds funded by the other fees, electric capital project increase of $75,600. You'll see what that's due to engineering for lines out of Melody and Keniston Island, and then get some new utility billing software. Sewer fund, an increase of $15,679. Again, it has everything broken down: health insurance, technology, collection, wastewater, and a capital outlay. More sewer collection funds has a decrease of $2,970. Wastewater treatment, decrease of $3,599. Pop Whalen has an increase of $72,097. Okay, now we'll go over to the overall budget increase for the capital outlay. 2023 general fund is $1,311,571. That's an 8.33% increase. Water Enterprise Fund, 0.18% increase. Electric Enterprise Fund, 0.68% increase. Sewer Enterprise Fund, 0.93% increase. Pop Whalen Enterprise Fund, an increase of 31.22%. Total budget increase, $1,472,895 for the total budget increase over last year's budget on everything of 4.95%. Okay, if you look on the next one, this is the estimated tax rate on 2023. Of which, if you have a home that's worth $100,000, for your 2023 taxes will be at 606. There's 100,000, 300,000, 500,000, 750,000, and $1 million. The one thing to bear in mind is some of the items that you're going to vote on in the warrant articles aren't included in this tax rate. You won't see those things until 2024. Okay, so whatever they put for the public safety building, whatever that figures out to be, I think it was 51 cents, you're not going to see that till 2024. You won't see it on 2023. So the ones that are left blank are the ones that you're probably going to see on 2024, in the 2024 tax rate. That's it, Mr. Moderator. If you have any questions from anyone, I'll try to answer them.
Thank you, John. Lindy, did you want to start?
I have to wait for the amendment to come, then I want to say something.
Okay. Suzanne?
Two questions. One is the difference between the default budget and the proposed budget is roughly $1.5 million. Just out of curiosity, what's the tax rate on the default budget?
Could I ask you to repeat, because the difference is only $557,000?
The what?
The difference between the approved budget, operating budget, and the default budget is $557,000 in one of the handouts.
I'm looking at the warrant article.
I think her math is correct, Suzanne. Take a look at it. It's only about a $600,000 difference, not 1.6.
The warrant article has 31,226 as what's being asked to be voted to expend. The default budget is 30,669. It's a difference of about $1.5 million.
No, it's only 500,000, she's saying.
Yeah.
Really?
So start with a lower number, Suzanne, at 30,000,600, and just add 500 to it, and you'll get up to the 31,200.
Okay. Then the second, thank you. Yeah, it's confusing.
Yep.
All right, the second question is, curious as to why Pop Whalen's up 72,000 or 31%. The budget committee tell me what that increase is for. Thank you.
John, are you going to be able to do that, or?
Yeah, if I can just have a minute to look through my book. I was hoping I'd have all this memorized, but I just...
It's right there.
Oh, it's there. There it is.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I have gone back to that slide. This lays out the increases associated with Pop Whalen. Payroll and benefits, 13,300. Administrative allocation, 2,000. Machinery maintenance, 650. Rentals and leases, 110. Insurance, 277. Dues subscriptions, 144. Propane, 12,430. 13. Machineries and equipment, 45. Miscellaneous operating expense, 1,625. But we have debt service that's coming on associated with the bond. Principal payment of $12,674 and an interest payment of $33,540.
So there's the breakdown. Any further discussion? I understand there's going to be an amendment while we got this slide up.
Good
Jeff?
evening. Good evening. My name is Jeff McGinnis. I'm with the Friends of Pop Whalen. I make a motion to amend the operating budget for the Pop Whalen Ice and Arts Center. The motion requests a change in the operating expenses to increase the overall expenses from $303,003 to $402,703. The offsetting revenue increase for a full four-season use venue will change from $312 to $447,779. This budget is within the Pop Whalen Enterprise Fund and will not impact tax rates. Just for clarification, the breakdown of the increase is as follows. Labor, $75,000 to be split between full and part-time employment. Line item 740, machinery and equipment. We'd like to add purchasing a floor cleaning machine, which would add $6,500. Also, line item 740, machinery and equipment. Purchase of fob system for the current electronic registration system at a cost of $5,000. And then line item 410, electric. Increase that line item from $13,320. Increase that item by $13,320 from $53,283 to $66,602, and this would be to allocate funds to cover air conditioning during the summer months while the venue's in use.
All right, well, does somebody want to second that?
Well,
So I'm trying to get this on the floor.
Second for discussion.
I'll second it.
All right, so my understanding is from when I was presented, and Jeff gave a little bit more of an explanation than just the amendment, but if you look up here in the upper right corner, you see $303,003. They essentially want to increase that number to $402,702, which is an increase of 99.7, roughly $100,000. Is that a fair summary of the amendment on that end? And on the revenue side, you believe, which doesn't show up here, but the revenue that was projected was going to be $328,000. You believe you'll actually get $447,000, which is an increase in revenue of $119,000, more than paying for the increase, is what you're proposing.
Yes, it's
All right.
over $19,000 net, and this is in line with for anybody who doesn't know me, my name is Kurt DeWilder. This is in line with the budget that was presented by the Friends of Pop Whalen to the Budget Committee around this time last year. The budget as it had come out, we received it and went through it, and we recognized that there were some requests in the budget that were not in line with the new budget for the new facility, as it would be operated on a year-round basis. So by the labor increase, for example, the building is open more. It's also open in the summer, which it was not. And, of course, like I said, the additional operating time will generate additional user fees and more than offset the request. So I just want to be clear. I think that and somebody please, I'm sure you will, someone in the room, tell me if I'm wrong. The operating budget in Article 16, the amendment from the voters' perspective would be changing to $31,325,890. But so that, I'm repeating myself, but to be clear, that's more than offset by a $19,000 surplus by the additional user fees that it will generate.
All right, thank you. So just to summarize that, the number that you see in Article 16, which is the $31,226,190, would increase to $31,325,890 to incorporate their proposed changes. Is there any further discussion regarding that amendment? So, Linda.
Yes. I'm not going to vote tonight on this amendment due to a conflict of interest. I fill the selectman's seat on the Friends of Pop Whalen board. I am and have been an active board member with the Friends of Pop Whale in fundraising efforts and in the development of the business plan. I cannot represent two boards. I want the public to know that it's just the conflict of interest which is making me not vote tonight.
Thank you, Linda. Is there any further discussion? John?
Could I ask the Parks and Rec Director what her thoughts are on this?
Christine?
Christine Collins, Parks and Rec Director. Yes, I've been working with the Friends of Pop Whalen, and it does seem like this would be a good idea to do.
All right. Any further discussion on the amendment?
Give us that number again, please.
So the new number for the Article 16 would be $31,325,890. Is there any further discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. All's opposed? All right, the amendment carries, and that'll be the new number, $31,325,890. Is there any further discussion on the operating budget? Seeing none, we'll move on to Article 17, which is the sewer pump station upgrades, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $648,000 for the purpose of paying for increased cost of engineering, equipment, construction, and inspections of the Lerner Street and Mill Street sewer pump stations. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 3276 and shall lapse on December 31, 2024, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. This will be paid from state aid grant in the amount of $648,000 over the next 5 years from the RIB project, which will result in no tax rate impact. Therefore, the estimated tax rate impact for 2023 is $0. This is unanimously recommended by the Board of Selectmen as well as the Budget Committee. And Linda, are you going to start us off on this one?
Yes, I am. In 2022, the voters approved funds to upgrade the Mill Street and Laner Street pump station. When the bid prices came back, the pump station construction prices were more than the amount the voters had approved. The effect of inflation was part of the price increase. With the passage of this warrant article, the town will be able to complete both of these pump stations. And I'll turn the presentation over to the town manager.
Thank you, Linda. So this just summarizes where we were last year with the Mill and Laner Street pump stations. These were built in the 40s. They were upgraded in the 90s. Both stations are beyond their useful life, and they were identified for replacement in 2006. Since that time, we've made significant upgrades, kept them going along, much thanks to the staff. But we're at a point where we have significant safety and reliability concerns, and it's time to do something about it. Escalation of the pump stations is requiring us to come in and ask for more money. Right now, we have an estimate of $302,000 increases in Mill Street, at least $100,000 in Laner Street, and we're at about 90% design on these, and there's a possibility of more increases as we continue to build these stations out. As I said, we're nearing final design, and the town is receiving $648,000 in state aid grants, so there'll be no tax rate impact as we utilize these funds to be able to pay for the escalation. Here you can see a breakdown where we're at today with the current pump stations, Laner Street, Mill Street. We're meeting with the engineers on a regular basis. We anticipate starting construction on these this spring. That's the end of the article. We'll try to answer any questions you may have.
Any comments, questions regarding Article 17? Seeing none, we'll move right on to Article 18, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $850,000 for the purpose of upgrading and engineering for town roads, sidewalks, and drainage systems. To authorize funds in the amount of $850,000 from the town's unassigned fund balance. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 3276 and shall lapse on December 31, 2024 upon the completion of the project, whichever occurs first. This appropriation shall not increase shall not result in any increase to the town tax rate. Therefore, the estimated tax rate increase for 2023 is 0. This is unanimously recommended by the Selectmen and Budget Committee. And Luke, who's been rather quiet, is going to start us off on this one.
Thank you, Randy. Town of Wolfeboro has under its care and responsibility 68 miles of road, and many of those roads are in various degrees of age and condition. Care of the roads has consistently ranked as one of the top concerns of voters and in numerous public hearings. Previous years have seen very high percentages of favorability with warrant articles for roads and road maintenance. With that, I'll hand it off to Jim Pinio.
So our Director of Public Works is here this evening. This is his first time coming to our deliberative session. Steve Randall, he has taken on the Highway Department in conjunction with Solid Waste, the garage, and Buildings and Grounds. I'm going to let Steve present. He should be able to answer most questions you have. Steve?
Steve Randall, Public Works. So,
Mike's not on.
Hello? Hello?
Yep.
All right, so as Luke said, we've got almost 68 miles of roads, a lot of them in poor condition. We want to just continue the road upgrade work that has been put in place over the past years. Culverts, drainage, overlays as needed, rebuild the road base. And I want to point out that the majority of this work will not be done by the Highway Department. It will be subbed out so that Highway can concentrate on road maintenance first. And answer any questions you have.
Any questions at all? Suzanne?
More for the Budget Committee or the Finance Director. I see that we're taking from the unassigned fund balance, and I think we did that last year on a different warrant article. Some of that money is used to offset the tax rate. So can you give me an overall picture of how we're doing on the unassigned fund balance, and are we keeping it within the limits of our previous warrant article? Thank you.
Yep. Can I bring your attention to the slide that's up there? At the end of 2021, we had a little over 4.2 million, which is a little shy of 10%. The voters voted to use 1,000 for the same purpose of town road upgrades last year, which brought it down to 3.2 million and 7.35%, and this would bring it down to 5.42% or almost 2.4. The goal is to keep it between 5 and 8, so this does keep it within our policy, the board's policy.
Any further comments, discussion? Seeing none, we'll move on to Article 19, the Green Street upgrades. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $530,000 for the purpose of upgrading Green Street. Funds should be utilized for engineering fees, stormwater drainage systems, replacement of water and sewer mains, and rebuilding the roadway. $100,000 from the Water Enterprise Fund shall be for the purpose of engineering replacing vintage water mains which service Green Street. $430,000 from general taxation shall be for the purpose of engineering replacing the existing sewer main in Green Street, stormwater drainage systems, and rebuilding of Green Street. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 3276 and shall lapse on December 31, 2024, or upon the completion of the project, whichever first occurs. The estimated tax rate increase for 2023 is 18 cents per thousand. This has been unanimously recommended by the Budget Committee and the Selectmen. And Brad, you're going to start us off on this one.
Thank you. The water line on Green Street is another one of our vintage water lines that has lead joints and needs to be replaced. The sewer line is also of the vintage era. The upgrade of this line will go a long way in eliminating inflow and infiltration into the town's sewer system, which will also extend the life of our pump stations and our RIB site. So I ask for your support for this warrant article, and I'll turn it over to Jim and Steve for further details.
So very similar, we've got road issues. This is a standalone hybrid project where we're using enterprise monies in conjunction with town monies, taxpayer monies to do this work. We're following details as outlined in the Water Asset Management Plan based on projects that have been prioritized As you can see here, Green Street is identified as number 3 and was estimated to be done in an out year outside of 2027, but we feel that this is important to do this project before the South Main Street project comes in front of us, and it falls in line with our budget this year. So it's 710 linear feet of construction. The red arrows show where we're going to be working. And Steve can speak to the sewer lines and some of the issues that we may run into there and options that we may be looking at. Steve?
So, as it says, the sewer line right now is running about 12 feet deep. We have some camera work done to it. We're looking into some options to sleeve it so it doesn't need a full replacement. Some of that stuff is still ongoing. Any questions?
Any questions, comments on Article 19? Seeing none? Seeing none except Pat. So Pat wants to restrict reconsideration of Articles 13 through 19. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? We will not reconsider 19 or before. Moving on to Article 20, the mini excavator, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $130,000 for the purpose of purchasing a mini excavator. The amount of $78,000 should be funded from the general fund. The amount of $26,000 shall be funded from the water enterprise fund. The amount of $26,000 should be funded from the sewer enterprise fund. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 3276 and shall lapse on December 31, 2024, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. The tax rate impact for 2023 is 3 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation. This is unanimously recommended by the Selectmen and Budget Committee. And Brian, you're going to start us off on this one.
Okay, for years we've rented mini excavators when needed. We've spent a lot of money renting them every year. There were many times a mini excavator was needed but may not be available, or they need it for such a short time that they didn't rent one. They either hand dug or used a large excavator, which can be problematic in tight conditions. This excavator also has dual purposes where it can have a sweeping attachment on it so we can clean up after repairs in different parts of the town. This purchase will have a short financial payback period, maybe 3 to 5 years, based on the cost of it and the cost of the equipment we used to rent. So Jim and Steve Randall will talk more about this.
Steve, it's all yours.
So this is just going to continue in our model of maintenance first. So for ditching, culvert repairs, general cleanup, it's going to save us, as Brian said, it's going to save us money in the long run, and it's going to be a very important part of the fleet going forward.
One thing that I might add, there may be some questions. Why is this not just part of the capital reserve appropriation? We felt that this was an expansion of the fleet beyond the existing infrastructure that we have for equipment. So we felt that it was prudent to bring it to the voters to give you the option to weigh in. Do we want to expand our fleet to include this piece of equipment going forward?
Any comments or questions on Article 20? Bob?
There's one right there.
I'm going to talk real loud because this doesn't work.
Will it in the future, since it's going to be added to the fleet, will it then be covered by the existing equipment fund in the future?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, move on to Article 21, the municipal electric utility vote, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $170,000 for the purpose of replacing the municipal electric department boat, trailer, and associated equipment. The amount of $170,000 should be funded from Electric Enterprise Fund. This expenditure shall not result in any increase in the tax rate. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 3276 and shall lapse on December 31, 2024, or upon completion of the project, whichever occurs first. The estimated tax rate impact for 2023 is 0. This is unanimously recommended by the Budget Committee and the Selectmen. And Luke, you're going to start us off on this one?
Thank you, Randy. The town of Wolfeboro Electric Department serves over 100 customers on the islands of Wolfeboro. The current boat that was in service for many years was damaged twice this past year at town docks, and as a result, a new boat is needed to service the islands during power outages and routine repairs and maintenance. This new boat will enable the Municipal Electric Department to better serve the islands in the future. And again, this has no impact on the tax rate. With that, I'll hand it off to Barry Muccio.
Thanks, Luke. As Luke said, our current boat is a 20-foot long. It's more of a sport, utility-style boat, not really set up for construction and the use that we need it for. It's inadequately sized. It can only really handle about 1,000 pounds, and we've got it overloaded when we have equipment and 3 or 4 guys on there. We do serve 9 islands out on the lake, so we have an obligation for emergency response, power outages, trouble calls, etc. It gets used quite often in the season. A little stats on the boat: it's approximately 20 years old. Again, only has 1,500 pound capacity. At this point, we've spent about 80% of its purchase price on maintenance, so it's due. On top of the operational deficiencies, we did sustain some damages down here at the town dock. We got hit a couple times. Our insurance company actually totaled the boat and declared it a total loss. So this is sort of the replacement boat style we're looking for. Something in the 24-foot class, has a landing vessel front end there with a winch that we can pick transformers up. We can even potentially haul poles in this thing. So that just happens to be an example of another manufacturer. And that's one you would see from one of our neighboring utilities that's completely outfitted. That would be similar. Again, project funding will be from the electric department. Has no effect on the tax rate or the electric rate. It's already built into our rate structure. And with that, I'd entertain any questions.
Any questions, comments? Bobby.
Just one quick question. What is the plan in place to make sure this does not get hit and suffer the same damage? Do we have a new plan where we're parking it, or?
We are working on a plan down at the town docks to have perhaps a more designated, safer spot for this. I don't know if it was a freak summer, but we've been parking down there for a number of years, and this happened to be the one summer where this happened. It's been down there before without any issues, but we certainly will address that part of it.
All right, thank you. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to Article 22, to see if the town will vote to approve the cost items, including the 2-year collective bargaining agreement reached between the Board of Selectmen and Local 534 of the American Federation of State, County, Municipal Employees, which calls for the following increases in salaries and benefits at current staffing levels of 43 employees. For the 2023 year, wages will be $86,863, benefits $20,870, for a total of $107,733, and for 2024, the increase will be $60,917. Benefits will increase by $14,475 for a total increase of $75,392. And further, to raise and appropriate $107,733 for the current year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in wages and benefits required by the new agreement over those that would be paid at current levels, to be offset by funds from the water fund in the amount of $10,981 and $2,016 to come from the sewer fund, and the remainder from general taxation. The estimated tax rate impact for 2023 is 4 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation. This is unanimously recommended by the Selectmen and the Budget Committee. And Dave, you're going to start us off on this one?
This particular article is the AFSCME contract. We tried to get a 2-year contract with them, which we did, as you can see. We think that this is a reasonable request.
I asked for 2023 and 2024. Jim, you got more to add?
Sure. As Dave said, this is a 2-year contract. That's what we tried to go into negotiations with. That's what we came out with. Year 1 represents a 5% raise. Year 2 represents a 3.5% raise for a 2-year total of 8.5%. 5% is also what was issued to non-union staff. The other takeaway from these negotiations, it was critically important, as you saw in an earlier slide when Mr. McDonald was showing you the operating budget. Healthcare is an extremely expensive undertaking for the town. One of the items in this contract is it requires both collective bargaining agreements and the town to create a healthcare committee to evaluate the options which we may have for health insurance going forward. But this is a good contract, represents 43 of our hardworking employees, and we hope that you support it.
Any questions or comments on Article 22? Seeing none, we'll move on to Article 23. To see if the town vote to approve the cost items included in the 2-year collective bargaining agreement reached between the town and Local 39 of the New England Police Benevolent Association, which calls for the following increases in wages and benefits at current staffing level of 17 employees. For the 2023 year, the increase in wages would be $44,843. The benefit increase would be $19,937 for a total increase of $64,780. For 2024, the increase in wages would be $22,080. The increase in benefits would be $6,640 for a total increase of $28,720. And further, to raise and appropriate the sum of $64,780 for the current year, such sum representing the additional costs attributable to the increase in wages and benefits required by the new agreement over those we paid at current levels. The estimated tax rate increase for 2023 would be 2 cents per $100,000 of $1,000 assessed valuation. This is unanimously recommended by the Police Commission, Board of Selectmen, and Budget Committee. And Dave, you're going to start us off on this one.
Yeah, this is the same situation as we had with AFSCME. We tried to get a 2-year contract, which we did, as you can see. And I'll turn the rest of it over to Jim.
Yeah, so as Dave said, we worked through these negotiations. We were able to strike some parity between the two contracts. Year 1 represents 5.5%. Year 2 represents 3.0%, for a total increase of 8.5% in raises over the next 2 years, which is the same as the AFSCME unit of 8.5%. It also calls for the creation of the healthcare committee, and this represents 17 of our police officers and dispatchers, and we hope that you support this.
Any further discussion or comments? Seeing none. Sorry, Bob.
No question on this one. I would like to move to restrict all the articles 23 and back.
Okay, it's been moved to restrict Articles 22 and back. All those in favor of doing that, please say aye. Aye. All right, we will not consider any Articles 23 and back is what I think you said, right? So on to 24. To see if the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $72,706 for the purpose of creating a new position within the Wolfeboro Police Department effective June 5th of 2023. During the regular school year, this position shall be assigned the position of School Resources Police Officer for the Kingswood Complex. The remainder of time outside the regular school year, this position shall be assigned as a Town of Wolfeboro Patrol Officer. The school district, SAU 49, shall pay the Town of Wolfeboro 50% of payroll and benefits, which is $22,338 for this position for up to 73 school days from August 23 to December 23, outlined below. The current memorandum of understanding with SAU 49 is $306 per day, and the breakdown is as follows. For SAU 49, the SRO cost per day is $306, number of days 73. 2023 cost $22,338, cost per day again $306, number of days 180. 2024 cost would be $55,080. The town's portion is $179 a day for 73 days for a total of $13,093. For 2024, the cost per day is $199 for 180 days, which is $32,283. And then town policing is $485 for the total number of days, 73. 2023 costs $37,275. 2024, $505 per day, number of days 80 for $38,838 for a total cost for 2023 of $72,706, or a total cost overall of $126,191. This position shall be created and filled only if both the town warrant article and the SAU 49 warrant article number 7 pass. If both articles are successful, this position shall be fully funded in future years, with the SAU 49 paying half of the payroll and benefits for up to 180 school days outlined above. The estimated tax rate impact for 2023 is 2 cents per $1,000 assessed valuation. Unanimously recommended by the Police Commission, recommended by the Selectmen on a vote of 4-0 to 1 abstention, recommended by the Budget Committee on a vote of 5-4. And Brian, you're going to start us off on this one?
Yep. So this came a little bit late into the process, and I did a lot of research on it, and I managed to pick out probably about 600 to 800 pages of information on it. It is a very interesting situation, and if anybody is interested in asking questions about it and wanting to know more about SRO officers, what they do, so on and so on, you can go onto the town website. You can find my personal phone number, my cell number, my personal email address, and my town email address. Ask me any questions you want, and I will enlighten you the best I can. As our moderator said, it was recommended by the Board of Selectmen by 4-1 with an abstention, and initially it was not recommended by the Budget Committee. But the Budget Committee had a subsequent special meeting, and one member flipped their vote, and now it is recommended 5-4. I think it would be best for the Police Commission and Chief Rondo to speak on this.
So who'd like to address this? Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Steve Wood, Chairman of the Wolfeboro Police Commission. First, I'd like to propose a change, or an amendment, if you will, to Article 24. I believe you have that on paper in front of you. The changes would insert where it says school district or SAU, the words Governor Wentworth Regional School District. That is in keeping with a like warrant article that is on the school district warrant. The other change that is affected in this amendment is the very last sentence above the estimated tax rate impact, where it says this position shall be created and filled only if both the town warrant article and the SAU 49 warrant article pass. After discussing with members of the Board of Selectmen, we've decided to remove that entire sentence, thus keeping the amended warrant article very similar in language with the Governor Wentworth Regional School District's warrant article. Just for clarity.
So Steve has moved to amend this article. Is there a second? Second. All right. So the gist of that amendment is in the first paragraph at the very end, after it says Wolfeboro Patrol Officer, and it goes on to say the school district SAU 49. That would be deleted because it technically should say the Governor Wentworth Regional School District. So that's just a housekeeping change. And then the proposal is to delete the last sentence below all the numbers. This position shall be created all the way out to outlined above, so that it's not contingent upon the school district passage or not passage of this. Is that a fair summary of your amendment, Steve?
Yes,
So
sir.
would you like to address Article 24?
Thank you.
Or the amendment, I should
Can I
say.
just-
Oh, go ahead.
It seems to be 2 sentences at the end. Is it your intention to delete both?
That's what it looks like to
I
me,
agree.
too.
It goes to all the way to outlined above.
Yes. from where it starts this position and ends it as outlined above.
Just looking for clarification, that is two sentences, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay. As many people know, the police commission is tasked with ensuring
So
that...
Steve, let me just cut you off. You're going to try to, I can tell, talk about the substance of the article. Can we just talk about the amendment? Is there any discussion on the amendment at all? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment? All right, John?
Can you just read it? I didn't understand what he was saying.
Sure. So he was trying to do two things, and I know it's tough when you're just trying to grapple from your end. So at the top part of the article, they just want to change where it says the school district SAU 49, about 6 lines down. That'll be deleted, and in place of it, they'll insert the words the Governor Wentworth Regional School District, which is technically correct. And then down below all the numbers, John, after 126,191, the next 2 sentences will be deleted at the bottom so that this would not be contingent upon the school district basically doing anything. It's an independent one.
Thank you.
Makes sense. All right. Is there any discussion regarding the amendment? Brody?
I'm a little bit confused if you could clarify, Steve. So you want to fund the position either way, whether or not Governor Wentworth Regional School District votes to also fund their half of the position?
That is not the intent. If the school district votes it down, it becomes null and void. But we remove that language so that it's not, this warrant article, as we've amended, mirrors what you folks put in. We originally sent our warrant article to the district to include this language. And when the warrant article came back from the school district, it did not mirror what we sent. So we have now made ours mirror yours, basically.
Okay. All right. Thanks for clarifying.
John?
I just got a quick question, Mr. Commissioner. So if the school district says no, do we have to pay for that position to go to the school all 100%?
We do not.
Okay.
That was never our intent, sir.
Thank you.
Any further questions regarding the amendment? Bob?
Quick question, Steve.
Surely.
So basically what you're saying is the MOU rules.
Correct.
Is that what I'm hearing?
The MOU is a contract, an agreement, a contract, however you want to couch it, between the two agencies. One cannot have, you can't have one without the other.
I understand. So if, in your words, if the school district does not pass this warrant article, the MOU says we don't have a contract.
Correct.
Basically.
That is correct.
Therefore, the town is not on the hook.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any further questions on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. All's opposed? All right, the amendment will carry. Is there any further discussion on the article as amended?
Yes, Mr. Moderator. Just for clarification for everybody, what Selectman DeShays is true, said is true. This came forward rather quickly this year. The reason being that the commission lives in the data. We receive in our monthly reports data from the school resource officer. So we see all these things that are happening, changes that are happening, and we noticed during 2021 there was a significant increase in activity on the high school or middle school campus. We'll call it the Kingswood complex. More than double what it is normally, and that was interesting because 2021 was not a complete full school year. There was part of that year that was hybrid, but still the number had gone up significantly. Then again in 2022, the number again more than doubled in terms of activity on the school complex. And we were asked to provide data to reflect that. We did that. It was never intended to infer, nor did we ever clearly state, or would we state, that the school complex is a dangerous place to be. That was not the point. This was merely to justify the additional resource officer that is necessary at that complex. I would encourage everybody, if you have the time, to take a moment and go onto the go onto YouTube and look at the January 2024, I think it was the 24th of January, the school board meeting that was held in the high school library, and listen to remarks that are made by the high school principal, the middle school principal, as well as the voc ed principal, about the need for this additional resource officer. We've talked about, because people have asked for data to support this, we've talked about the activity that the police department responds to. The school district also, separate from what we do, reports another set of data to the Department of Education. When we looked at their data, it backed up our data. They have different reporting structure than we do, and their reporting data is stuff that they handle administratively within the schools. It has nothing to do with police intervention or anything like that. It's two separate things, but their data spoke to the reality of the increase in activity on that campus. And again, I want to stress, it's not that it's a dangerous place. My kids went through there. My grandkids are coming up. I support this district. But we're tasked as a commission to make sure that we outfit and resource our police department with all that is needed to maintain the safety and security of our citizens and our visitors. And part of our citizens and visitors are what's on that school complex every day. And best put by, I think, by the principal, Guy Donnelly, at the high school, on any given school day, you have more people in that small space, and I'm talking about the Kingswood complex, with close to 2,000 people, than you do anywhere else in Carroll County. And that was kind of profound when he said that, because I thought about that, and nowhere do you have an area that small within the county where you have that kind of volume of people. We've had one school resource officer on that property since 2000. That's been over 20 years now, and Principal Donnelly has been there to work with every resource officer that has come up through. Our current resource officer has set the bar extremely high. She's doing a phenomenal job up there, but because of the uptick in activity and what's required of her with report writing and so forth, she's been inundated with paperwork and can't do these other vitally important jobs that she does that make up parts of the things. I'd like to read just, and this, again, if you watch the 2024, January 2024 school board meeting, you'll hear Mr. Donnelly speak to this, but he talks about the value of SROs in the buildings. He's witnessed conversations in the hallways between the SRO and the students, because the SRO is building vital relationships. In the classrooms, when she can, and she has not been able to for quite some time, she's teaching classes on safety of the road, drunk driving, health classes, and training staff on school safety. Not all about the responses, and it's not all about responses to bad acts within the school. It's also about the support that the SRO provides to the students and to the administration. And again, I encourage you to watch this because it's also backed up by the vice principal, the principal of the middle school, Carrie Hunt, and Grady Charlin, the principal of the Voc Educational Center. I could speak to the numbers again tonight, but I don't think we need to. The numbers are what they are. We know what the SRO's requirements are. We also know the value that the SRO brings within our community, and that's where the Police Commission pretty much starts and ends. We are tracking on what the national pulse is, what's going on around the country, but our primary concern is what's happening here in Wolfeboro. We want to make sure Wolfeboro is safe, and that's why the Commission has moved this initiative forward. Just getting back real quick to why it came, real quick, why it came out when it did, is because of the uptick in activity in 2021, and then in 2022 it was going up even more. We decided to push forward this initiative, and when we did, our budget process for the town was already well underway. The school district was just about wrapping theirs up. We didn't feel it was prudent to wait until 2024 to address this, so we moved forward this year.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Suzanne?
Quick question. What did the school budget committee and school board, how did they vote on recommending their warrant article at their session?
So, Bertie, you want to address that? What was the school board's recommendation? And just while he's walking, so we're about halfway through. We've been here for 2 hours. At this rate, we'll leave around 11 o'clock, so you might talk quickly, whoever.
We don't post our vote on the ballot, but according to our meeting minutes, it was 6-1-3 in favor. So it is recommended by the school board.
All right, thank you. Any further comments or questions? Bobby?
So I just want to say that if I had come up here 2 weeks ago, I would be stressing that the voters in our community vote against this. But after following this and listening to the principals and attending all of the meetings, I just want to say that really listening to the principals, listening to the school, I think this is an important warrant article that we need to address and we need to pass. A lot of people are confusing this. If we do this officer, we cannot have therapists or more licensed counselors in the school. They're not mutually exclusive of each other. The school can still hire therapists. If they hire this SRO, my thoughts are a little crazy right now. They're not going to not be able to hire therapists. They're two separate issues, so please don't confuse them and follow the meeting like Steve had said and listen to what the principals say on this one. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion on Article 24?
Yeah, I got a point. Just wanted to kind of bring some budget committee perspective to this. We did have a second meeting on it where the vote changed from a negative to a recommend. We all thought that the data that was presented, you could view it a number of different ways. We felt also that kind of a rush to get this through, and that was part of our reasoning for not recommending it. We think that it has merit, and maybe another year would have been better to get our things in order, so to speak, and work together. So it felt like we didn't get the whole story from the beginning. And for that reason, I'd like to make a motion, if I can, Mr. Moderator.
You can make any motion you'd like.
I'd like to make a motion that the $72,706 go to zero, because we can't change the article, but I'd like to change the amount.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded to reduce the funding from $72,706 to zero. Is there any discussion regarding that amendment? Pretty clear. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Even though we had a few people yell louder than others, I think that the numbers were with the noes. Any further discussion on Article 24? The amendment fails. Seeing none, I'll move on to Article 25. To see if the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $66,000 for the purchase of a police cruiser replacement vehicle and ancillary vehicle equipment with $5,000 from the Police Detail Revolving Fund created by Article 23 and not in 2006, which is accumulated from special details in prior years. Additionally, this warrant article also grants permission to the Wolfeboro Police Commission to dispose of one existing cruiser by sale, auction, trade, or disposal with any proceeds to be returned to the general fund. The estimated tax rate impact for 2023 is 3 cents per $1,000 assessed valuation, unanimously recommended by the Police Commission, Board of Selectmen, and the Budget Committee on a 6-2 vote. And Luke, do you want to start us off on this one?
Police vehicles, see wear and tear that most commercial vehicles do. if this warrant article is passed, the department will end up disposing of an older cruiser with over 100,000 miles. The current vehicle has significant issues that are both mechanical and structural, and most likely will not pass state inspection this coming year. And with that, I'll hand it off to Chief Rondeau, or Steve.
I'd like to make a motion to amend Article 25, Mr. Moderator, to change the amount of $5,000 from the detail revolving fund to an amount of $10,000.
All right. Is there a second for that?
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to increase the $5,000 number in line 2 to $10,000 coming out of the police detail revolving fund. Is there any discussion regarding the amendment? So what's the purpose of the amendment, Steve?
After speaking with our finance director, I found out that there was more money in the detail revolving fund than we believed. Just over $10,000. We decided to maximize our contribution, if you will, from the detail revolving fund, thus further defraying the cost of the cruiser.
All right, any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in... Bob?
Just one clarification. So the net will be 56,000, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Second question, does that mean that the impact on the taxpayer is different?
I'll have to
Well, it obviously will change the
Wouldn't
impact.
be much.
But not by a whole lot.
They can obviously recalculate that rate if it does. Any further discussion on the amendment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the amendment carries. Any further discussion on Article 25 as amended? Steve, do you want to say anything further, or Chief, do you want to chat at all?
I'm just going to say that this has been an ongoing plan with the Wolfeboro Police Department. We retire one cruiser that has outlived its useful purpose and purchase a new one. It's just we're on a 11-year rotation at this point. So this is just what's been happening year after year. But
all right, Bob.
Which vehicle number are you replacing?
It's a Ford. Yeah, there is no number on it. It's a Ford Taurus.
Detective vehicle.
Right. It was being used by the detective.
All right, any further discussion? Seeing none, then, we'll move on to Article 26. Shall the town of Wolfeboro vote in accordance with RSA 7227A to readopt the provisions of RSA 7228-2 previously adopted for an optional veterans tax credit at $500 per year? If readopted, the all veterans tax credit previously adopted will also be $500 per year, the same amount as the optional veterans tax credit. If readopted and approved, this article shall take effect for the 2023 property tax year, unanimously recommended by the selectmen and recommended by the budget committee on a vote of 5 in favor, 0 opposed, 3 abstentions. And Luke, you're going to address this one for us?
Thank you, Randy. This is a readoption of the tax credit program the town has had in place for many years. For many years, the town of Wolfeboro has joined other communities in New Hampshire by offering this property tax credit to those who have served our country. I ask for the voters for their continued support on this important warrant article.
Any discussion on Article 26? Seeing none, moving on to Article 27. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $300,000 to be added to the existing Public Works Vehicle and Equipment Capital Reserve Fund, which is under the custody of the trustees of the trust funds, with selectmen designated as agents to expend. The estimated tax rate impact for 2023 is 13 cents per $1,000 assessed valuation. This is unanimously recommended by the Board of Selectmen and recommended by the Budget Committee on a vote of 8-1. And this is the first of 6 capital reserves that we'll discuss. And Brad, you're going to start us off on this one.
Yes, thank you. As you will see in the following slides, the DPW has vehicles and equipment valued in excess of $3 million. Maintenance costs have been increasing due to the new emission standards that need to be met, electronics, and the overall quality of today's vehicles. To help lower these costs, we're looking at higher quality vehicles, which should also offer a little longer longevity. So I ask for your support for this article, and I'll turn this over to Steve for further details.
So as Brad said, over $3 million worth of vehicles now. Right now, we're looking at a replacement of our loader that is running close to 30,000 hours on it. It is the case loader that was on the front line since it got retired on 2019. We're looking at close to $30,000 worth of repairs if we keep it. I got a favorable trade-in quote, so we're looking to replace that this year with a much smaller front-end loader with different class of attachments, sweeper, power angle plow to use primarily in the downtown area, pickup plow with a gutter brush, go down through in the mornings for cleanups. And then we have the highway foreman's pickup was on schedule to be replaced this year. That's a 2011. It's in decent shape. That will get handed down to the solid waste division as their truck failed inspection this year. Be happy to ask any questions that you have.
Any comments or questions on Article 27? Suzanne, you wanted me to remind you that you might want to say something on that one? Did you want to say something on Article 27? Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Bob?
A quick question for the Finance Director. What is the current funding in the capital reserve account?
$34,078.
Do we have any encumbrance on that 34,000?
That would be after any commitments that we already have.
After commitments. Thank you.
So is there any further discussion on Article 27 first? Seeing none, I'll move on to Article 28, but it's been moved to restrict reconsideration of all articles prior to Article 27. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, it carries. We will not reconsider tonight anything before and including 27. Moving on to 28, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $75,000 to be added to the existing Sidewalk Capital Reserve Fund, which is under the custody of the trustee of trust funds with the selectman designated as agent to expend. The estimated tax rate impact for 2023 is 3 cents per $1,000 assessed valuation. This is unanimously recommended by the selectmen of the Budget Committee. And Linda, you're going to start us off on this one.
Yep. Many of the town's sidewalks are in poor shape. By adding $75,000 to the $66,804 already in the capital reserve account, these funds will allow the town to upgrade some of our sidewalks throughout town. The sidewalks along South Main Street will not be done until the state of New Hampshire does its work on South Main Street / Route 28 sometime between 2024 and 2026. And I'll turn this over to the town manager.
Thank you, Linda. So we've got 7.5 miles of sidewalk in town. 64.1% of those are classified as in poor condition. 10.4% are classified in fair condition, and 25.5% are classified in good condition. We've identified some repairs that need to be done. We were hopeful to get some done this fall, but the costs were too costly based on what we had for a scope of work. So what we're hoping is to make this contribution on an annual basis to do some repairs with our sidewalks. We plan on strategizing this a little better with our water, sewer, and stormwater work as we do road repairs and reconstruction, and creating a sidewalk surface management plan. We do have a layout of what the existing conditions were as of 2021. We plan on updating that as we go forward. We did ask for a scope of work to be performed this fall. As you can see, we had a range of pricing from $66,000 to $203,000. Our hope this coming year is to be able to have a larger scope of work. Having one mobilization will save us some money, and we have identified some areas that are in need of replacement. in very short order. We have done some emergency repairs. We've had the Highway Department perform some in-house emergency repairs onto some sidewalks which were in deplorable condition. So this is the summary of it. We hope that you support this going forward.
Thank you, Jim. Any discussion on Article 28? Seeing none, moving on to Article 29. Now the Capital Reserve Fund, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 to be added to the existing Building Maintenance Capital Reserve Fund, which is under the custody of the trustees of the trust fund, with the selectmen designated as agents to expend this capital reserve fund. The estimated tax rate impact is 2 cents per $1,000 assessed valuation, unanimously recommended by the selectmen, recommended by the Budget Committee, a vote of 8 to 1. And Luke, you'll start us off on this one.
Thanks, Randy. This has been a standing warrant article that we've had for a few years now. This fund allows the town to take care of mid-year unexpected expenses, such as when a heating system fails, burst pipe, other large repairs that we've not previously budgeted for. As Wolfeboro has many buildings under its care, this is a very important fund, and I ask for your support.
So a couple of items here. The town owns 23 buildings that we're responsible for maintaining, not including the enterprise funds. As Luke alluded to, this allows us to take care of some unanticipated repairs. I think that was a little dig toward me since Sunday night. I got a telephone call about an inch of water in my office, which has completely displaced me, but that's okay. We'll get through that. So we're hopeful that you support this going forward. We've got a lot of work to do on our buildings to keep them safe for the people visiting, our employees, and things happen.
Any questions or comments on Article 29? Seeing none, moving on to Article 30, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $200,000 to be added to the existing wastewater treatment plant capital reserve fund, which is under the custody of the trustees of the trust funds, with the selectmen designated as agents to expend this capital reserve fund. The estimated tax rate impact for 2023 is 8 cents per $1,000 assessed valuation, unanimously recommended by the Budget Committee and the selectmen. And Linda, you're going to start us off on this one.
In 2006, the need to upgrade the town's wastewater treatment plant was first identified. The wastewater treatment plant capital reserve fund was established as a way to fund needed capital projects that would extend the useful life of the plant. This has been a very successful way to help the plant function, and in fact, in 2016, the town won an award for the best small wastewater treatment plant. These added funds will be used to replace pumps, but in the near future, a larger upgrade will be needed. This fund has a zero fund balance, and with that, I'll turn it over to the town manager.
Thank you, Linda. So we're currently working on the basis of design for a new wastewater treatment plant. We anticipate that being complete by the spring of this year, so we'll be able to figure out a time frame for the actual upgrade and replacement of the entire facility going forward. As Linda alluded to, we've got some pumps that need to be replaced. They were installed in the mid-'80s. They've already been rebuilt once, and these pumps are beginning to show the need to be rebuilt again. So we're looking at replacing these pumps and replacing them with new pumps as opposed to rebuilding based on some energy efficiencies that we believe will observe. And these pumps will integrate with the upgrades that will be coming in front of you in the next couple years. So this isn't something that we're going to put money into and throw out in a couple years. Here is an example of what the pumps look like. We have to give our contracted operator a lot of credit, as these things look immaculate. They take excellent care of them, but it's time for them to be replaced. Any questions we can try to answer for you?
Any comments or questions regarding Article 30? Seeing none, moving on to Article 31, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be added to the existing non-capital reserve fund pursuant to RSA 35-1C for the purpose of a watershed management plan including engineering, design, permitting, best management practices for stormwater drainage and nutrient mitigation, grant matching, and education, which is under the trustees of trust funds with the selectmen as agents to expend from this non-capital reserve fund. The tax rate impact for 2023 is 4 cents per $1,000 assessed valuation, unanimously recommended by the Board of Selectmen, recommended by the Budget Committee on a vote of 7 to 1 to 1. And Linda, you're up.
Wolfeboro's most valuable assets are its beautiful lakes, ponds, rivers, and streams. The town's water assets have attracted many to move or vacation in Wolfeboro and have played a key role in keeping citizens who were born here to stay here. With the outbreak of cyanobacteria in Winter Harbor, the Board of Selectmen established a new committee, Wolfeboro Waters Committee, to focus on water quality. By adding $100,000 to the $76,559 already in this capital reserve fund, it will allow the town to address stormwater runoff issues by developing best management plans, applying for 319 grants, addressing runoff emergencies. In 2023, the town will need to use these funds to address a washout at White Gate Road and at Albee Beach. And with that, I will turn it over to the town manager.
Thank you, Linda. So there was a time when it was a best practice to simply take the water and push it to the lake. With the development that's taken place, we know that we need to get some water treatment in place before we put it back into the lake. The picture to your left and to the right are actually both washouts which occurred on White Gate Lane. If you recall, last year we did some construction work associated with the Maplewood subdivision, which is uphill of this, and we've got a problem here, and we've got to address it going forward. This is pretty clear cut. We hope that you support this so that we can take some corrective measures here. Thank you.
Any discussion regarding Article 31? Seeing none, we'll move on to Article 32, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,000 to be added to the existing Abenaki Capital Reserve Fund, which is under the custody of the trustees of the trust funds with selectmen designated as agents to expend. The estimated tax rate impact for 2023 is 1 cent per $1,000 assessed valuation. This is unanimously recommended by the Budget Committee and the selectmen. And Brian, you're going to start us off on this one.
Yes, capital reserve funds are useful budgeting tools that allow municipalities to set money apart from the general fund for specific purposes. Towns, school districts, and village districts, under the provisions of RSA 35, may establish capital reserve funds. The term reserve fund commonly refers to capital reserve funds. Jim Pinio, our town manager, will explain more about this reserve fund.
So I'll hand this off to Christine, but we just experienced a great opportunity with this. We had the motor at the Abenaki ski area fail on us. We had the money in the capital reserve fund to secure that motor. Christine, would you like to speak any further on this capital reserve fund?
Yes, thank you. This was established in 2016, and it has been very beneficial. As you see, we have listed out when we replace the rope and everything. Realistically, every 2 years we replace the rope. We actually just recently purchased a new ATV. The one we had, we fixed beyond repair, and the last fix we had, they said that was it. So we try to use our items as much as we can, sometimes a little bit more than we should, but this has been very beneficial to kind of plan out our expenses so we're not going over budget or, you know, not able to provide the ski hill what it needs. And I have to give kudos to the Friends of Abenaki for helping to support that as well. Thank you.
Any questions or comments on Article 32? Seeing none, we'll move on to Article 33.
Randy, you got somebody?
Before we do that, Bob.
Move to restrict Articles 32 and back.
All right, been moved to restrict Articles 32 and back. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, we will not reconsider Articles 32 and back this evening. On to Article 33, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $125,000 to establish a tree removal and replacement expendable trust fund. Said fund should be under the custody of the trustees of trust funds and to designate the selectman as agent to expend. The tax rate impact for 2023 is 5 cents per thousand of assessed valuation, unanimously recommended by the Board of Selectmen and recommended by the Budget Committee on a vote of 7-2. And Linda, you're up on this one.
Early in 2022, the town hired Bartlett Tree Expert to conduct a tree inventory and management plan for the trees on South Main Street, Center Street, and Pleasant Valley Road. 661 trees were inventoried, with 230 trees categorized as needing to be removed as soon as possible. Of those 330 trees, only 60 were on town property. The $125,000 will be used to remove some of the trees on the town property only. In addition, the town set up a donation account for citizens to donate funds to replace trees. The fund has already received a gift, and I will turn this over to the town manager.
Thank you, Linda. So anybody who drives through town can see the damage which has been done to some of our trees based on the emerald ash borer. It's quite devastating. There is a lot of trees which need to be removed. We also have a lot of trees which simply need to be harvested. They've lived their lives. It's time to replace them. One of the conversations that I had with the tree warden, there was a time when we were planting 25+ trees a year. We would really like to be able to get to that point where we're not just taking trees, but we're putting them back. And there is a whole science to it. You need to understand the soils and what particular tree will thrive in that area. The other thing, if the trees that we remove on South Main Street that are town's trees, those will not be replanted until that South Main Street project is complete. Just does not make sense to put a tree in the ground if we're going to be doing a bunch of construction work. We hope you support this, and the tree inventory, I believe, is at the library if people are interested in looking at it.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm Lenore Clark. I'm the chair of the Conservation Commission, and the commission has authorized me to get up and let the voters know that we support this warrant article, and we hope the voters support it as well.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on Article 33? Patty.
I just want to remind the town that Wolfeboro is designated as a National Tree City. We no longer meet any of the requirements. They do not maintain the designation system well, but they've upgraded their program to reference the importance of shade and how it impacts heat in the town and all of this stuff. I am looking into, apparently there are no more funds now, excuse me, that towns can try to go after, so I hopefully can forward some of that when we get it.
Thank you. Any further discussion on Article 33? Seeing none, we move on to Article 34, to see whether the town will vote to authorize an expansion of the existing Warmth and More Fund as approved by the voters in 2021 for the purpose of expanding the program to operating a wood bank to assist those in need of firewood for heating purposes. Passage of this article would allow the town to accept donations of firewood into the wood bank. Distribution of firewood for heating purposes will be determined by the welfare director. There's no impact on the tax rate for 2023, unanimously recommended by the Selectmen and Budget Committee. And Brian, you're going to start us off on this one?
Yep. 25% of all Wolfeboro households heat exclusively with wood. With fuel costs rising, families are being squeezed with very high utility bills. So the wood that will be used for this will be donated wood, and volunteers will prep it to be picked up by citizens who need the wood for heating. And again, there'll be zero tax rate impact for this warrant article.
Any discussion on Article 34? Seeing none, we'll move on to Article 35, which is the beginning of the petition warrant articles. So As I start reading these, whoever would like to speak to them, if you could come up to the microphone. We knew the selectmen were going to address these, so we could move it right along. So whoever was going to speak to Carpenter, come right up to the microphone while I'm reading it, if you would. So shall the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $50,000 for the purpose of contributing to the construction of a new playground at Carpenter School? This is submitted by petition. The estimated tax rate impact for 2023 is 2 cents per assessed valuation. The Board of Selectmen recommend this unanimously. The Budget Committee a vote of 5-4. So, Holly, would you like to address Article 35?
Yeah, I'm here on behalf of the Friends of the Carpenter School Community Playground. We're raising money to replace the playground, as the one that is behind Carpenter School is in disrepair. So we're asking the community for $50,000 to help us do that. Our goal right now is at $350,000, and with this money from the town and community, we'll only have $50,000 to go. And our hope is to replace the playground in July and make it as wonderful as it was when it was put in 30 years ago by the community. So I'm happy to answer any questions people might have tonight.
Does anybody have any questions or comments on Article 35? Looks like there are none.
Thank you.
Thank you. Article 36, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $81,000 for the purpose of constructing an access way 45 feet long extending from the sidewalk on South Main Street along the west side of Cate Park to create an ADA standards compliant ramp providing access for disabled people to the park and the waterfront. This appropriation is non-lapsing pursuant to RSA 3276 and shall lapse on December 31, 2024, or upon the completion of this project, whichever occurs first. It was submitted by petition. If it passes, it'll have a tax rate impact of 3 cents per $1,000 of assessed valuation. The Board of Selectmen have unanimously recommended this, and the Budget Committee on a vote of 8-1. And John, you want to start us off on this one?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is John Thurston, and I'm honored to present Article 36 tonight at the Town of Wolfeboro's Deliberative Session. Tonight, this presentation is about the efforts to inform and support Article 36 to fund the construction of an ADA access ramp into Cate Park. An ADA access ramp will be important because it will provide a safe and consistent access for everyone's abilities when they want to enter or exit Cate Park. The need for an ADA accessible ramp for Cate Park will allow Wolfeboro to be more inclusive in welcoming visitors and citizens. I believe this is the right decision to present Article 36 to the voters for their approval because it is the right thing to do to beautify Cate Park and Wolfeboro's waterfront. I would like to thank the Budget Committee and the Board of Selectmen for supporting Article 36 and this improvement to Cate Park. Tonight, I hope we can all agree that Cate Park is one of the jewels of Wolfeboro and the face of Wolfeboro's welcoming waterfront. Since 1967, visitors and citizens have come to Cate Park for a little something special. Maybe it's for a breath of fresh air in the morning, maybe it's to enjoy a gathering or a summer night of musical entertainment. Possibly, you may just want to be at Cate Park to enjoy the tranquility or the peaceful nature. Currently, the access into Cate Park from the northwest corner of South Main Street crosswalk and sidewalk limit any entry into Cate Park for the blind or visually impaired, those using a wheelchair or rolling walker or a cane, someone assisting or accompanying someone or a companion, a family with a stroller and children. The proposed ADA ramp at the northwest corner of Cate Park will provide an entry and exit point that is the shortest distance between the sidewalk and the lower lawn level area of Cate Park. It will also provide a direct travel line to the bandstand and to the docks at the water's edge. Under the direction of Parks and Recs Department, Kathy Rankin and Christine Collins, there have been yearly repairs to the existing granite steps, seating areas, and brick walkway hardscapes. Much of Cate Park hardscapes were constructed using granite and brick for its natural beauty and its ability to resist deterioration and withstand environmental conditions. Today, 55 years after 1967, we have provided the best materials to construct granite and brick hardscapes. The use of washed stone and filter fabric will create a pervious surface for this proposed granite and brick ADA access ramp. The proposed granite and brick ADA access ramp will be constructed using the best granite and brick materials for your investment. It will provide the best surfaces for traction and limited maintenance. The handrails on both sides of the access ramp will assist all abilities using the ADA access ramp. And the best part, generations will enjoy the benefit of this ADA access ramp and the forethought put into this improvement for Cate Park. Please support and vote for Article 36.
And thank you, John. Any questions, comments on Article 36? Carrie.
Hi, good evening. My name is Carrie Duran, and I just wanted to speak in support of this warrant article. My daughter, Cate, is 11 years old, and she was born with the developmental disability of Down syndrome. She's had some limited mobility over the years, and for us to fully enjoy all that Cate Park has to offer has been a little bit of a challenge throughout the years, especially when she was smaller and we primarily used a stroller. So if we came for the Fairy Festival or for a concert, we had to precariously try to walk through the lower parking lot, try to find parking, get the stroller out, and attempt to access it from that end. To come down the stairs for my daughter has always been a little bit of a dangerous proposition with her balance issues. So as a parent of a child with a developmental disability who does have balance and mobility issues, this would be just wonderful for our community and would allow my family and others to fully access the park and all it has to offer. So I would encourage voters to support this warrant article. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any further questions or comments, John?
Tonight, I have one more point of order. In my discussion, I mentioned that I worked under the direction of Kathy Rankin. She no longer works for the town of Wolfeboro, and at this time, I feel it's appropriate to recognize Kathy for her dedication, service to the Parks and Rec Department and for the town of Wolfeboro. Will you all recognize tonight and give Kathy a round of applause for her 35 years of service? I know she's home watching right now.
Go ahead. You're not on this article? All right. Any further discussion on Article 36? Seeing none, we'll move on to Article 37. To ask the town selectmen to support the beautification of the town, specifically in the areas by the railroad station, trolley pickup, town hall, and the strip of dirt in front of IGA by doing the following. 1, combine current landscaping budgets now split between Parks and Recreation and Public Works to make it easier to manage currently fragmented landscaping work and costs. To increase funding by $10,700 in addition to the current budgets of Parks and Recreation and Public Works. To allow an external landscaping company to be hired 25 hours a week for 20 weeks. To add an additional $4,000 to the plant materials budget for hardy perennials. The majority of our town landscape are maintained on a volunteer basis by the Wolfeboro Garden Club or individuals. In 2022, these spaces were eyesores and greatly neglected. It is no longer sustainable for the spaces cited above to be maintained by a volunteer to be added to the garden club projects. Parks and Rec attempt to hire a gardener in 2022 with a budget of 32 hours at 20 weeks at $18.25 an hour or $11,980.80 were unsuccessful in finding a candidate. This has been submitted by petition. The estimated tax rate impact is 1 cent per $1,000 of assessed valuation. The selectmen essentially voted to abstain on this, and the budget committee voted 8-1 against. Would you like to start us off?
Sure. Hi. I'm Sabette Stroman, and I submitted this warrant article. First, I'd like to thank the Board of Selectmen for their thoughtful conversation and the questions that they had as they discussed the article on January 18th, and I'd like to provide some answers to the questions that you had. I want to emphasize that this article addresses only 3 specific areas: the 2 strips of dirt that are in front of Hunters, the beds around the trolley stop at the information center and by Seven Sons, and the beds around the town hall. These 3 high visibility areas in the town became eyesores last year, with little to no planting or maintenance done. This resulted from a perfect storm of things that fell through the cracks over the last few years due to COVID, staff turnover, and a wonderful volunteer who could no longer contribute. A good percentage of the money needed to maintain these areas is already in the budget, but in fragmented places. I spent the day today speaking with Christine Collins in Parks and Rec, with Steve Randall in Public Works, with Marty Lincoln, who's the president of the Garden Club, and with several volunteers to give you a complete picture. Pretty much anybody I could track down. The Department of Parks and Rec has a budget of $11,980 for a part-time landscape worker, although they've not been able to find someone to do the work as a part-time employee. They've had this in the budget for several years. There's an additional $600 that I found out they had that's earmarked for the space in front of Hunters. That's the dirt. Public Works, I found out, has no line item budget for plants or maintenance, but historically, they've supported volunteer efforts by buying plant material for volunteers. This came out of the general budget, or slush fund, and last year they spent $1,320. And historically, they've spent about that much money. So technically, the town has spent or budgeted $13,900 to maintain these areas. Based on my knowledge of working with the Library Landscape Committee this last year, and I spoke with several landscapers, I've estimated, and this is really an estimate, that the town needs an additional $14,700 to buy some annuals and mostly perennial plants, because if you know anything about gardens, we can save a lot of money by putting perennials in that will come back year after year. To also refresh the soil and to hire a landscape contractor to plant and maintain the beds just from May until mid-October. In future years, this amount will be less if the gardens are designed with perennials as the primary plants. This is an estimate based on a good faith effort to help the town budget appropriately. Our budget committee estimated the tax impact as 1 cent per 1,000, as you can see above, so that means the warrant literally cost most citizens pennies. I'd like to end by responding to a specific comment that Luke Freudenberg, sorry if I mispronounce it, made in the January 18th Board of Supervisors meeting. Luke said, and I quote, "The more things we take responsibility for that are given to us, the more we are going to be continued to be asked to take over things when people are giving up on wanting to do them." These beds were generously maintained for many years by Kathy Bernard as a volunteer, and she simply cannot do this anymore. Our volunteers like Kathy are not giving up, not at all. But the landscape of volunteerism has changed dramatically in recent years. The average age of a Wolfeboro volunteer who is not a parent involved with a school, with a sports or kids-related activity, is probably late 60s or early 70s when people retire. Our younger citizens are parents who likely both work outside the home, in addition to raising a family, and they can't take more on. Organizations like the Garden Club don't have the bandwidth to take more on. I checked with them about this project. Our retailers already plant and maintain window boxes or areas directly in front of their stores, and they are stretched thin. This warrant asks that our town financially support the many businesses and citizens who are doing their part, and to help create beautifully landscaped areas for our citizens and visitors to enjoy. And I wrote the numbers down.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions or comments regarding Article 38?
37.
Thank you. Thank you.
Suzanne?
There's no doubt that it's very well intended and most likely needed. However, the warrant article is written is confusing, convoluted, and I question the validity of the format of it. So with that said, I'd like to make an amendment. I'll give you a copy of this. Actually, I should probably give it to you now, huh? Jim?
Well, why don't you say what it is first? I haven't
Okay.
seen whatever you're doing.
Okay, to see if in essence, it's the same thing, but it's more in the format of what we traditionally required to use. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate not to exceed $14,700 in addition to the current Parks and Rec budget to hire a landscaping company to maintain and support beautification in downtown areas such as the Railroad Station, Town Hall, and in front of the IGA as needed. This is a one-year lapsing appropriation program.
Okay, is there a second to that?
Second.
All right, so Suzanne, as I haven't seen what you've read, but the substance is you're keeping the same amount of money there, 14.7, just basically rephrasing the substance of the article. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's a proper summary. It doesn't change the subject matter, which is
I agree.
beautification and landscaping, hiring out landscaping. The money amount's the same. But the way it's written, it's very, it's very subjective as to whose budget, where's the selectman going to determine what comes out of where? This way, it just says to be added to the budget. And with the Highway Department having a $2 million plus budget and the Parks and Rec having a $1 million plus budget, I think that it need not affect those two entities. It just should be a straightforward 14.7. If the town wants to spend 14.7, great.
Okay. So is there any discussion on the amendment? I'll just read it one more time. To see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate not to exceed $14,700 in addition to the current Parks and Recreation budget to hire a landscaping company to maintain and support beautification in downtown areas such as the Railroad Station, Town Hall, and in front of IGA as needed. There's a one-year lapsing appropriation program. So is there any discussion on that proposed amendment, which basically is intended to replace the language but not the substance of Article 37, if I understand that correctly? Yes, ma'am. So come right up to the mic if you would.
I appreciate Suzanne's clarification, and just to clarify that Parks and Rec already has a chunk of this, and part of the problem has been the fragmentation. Like I even heard, oh, and so gives a little bit of mulch, and if they've got a free hand, they'll send a labor. So one aspect that's important is let's get it all in one place, and I would suggest Parks and Rec, and I didn't hear Steve say that he was crazy about taking this over when I met with him today, so.
Any further discussion on the amendment?
Could I just say that on the MS 737, which is the budget, I had put it under 4909, which is improvements other than buildings. I did not put it in Public Works or Recreation. So it sounds like her intention is to add it to Parks and Rec, but it's going to be a standalone warrant article.
That's what it reads to me. Julie?
I just have one question. This is only for 1 year. Well, what happens next year? Does it fall back to nothing?
That is correct.
And Patty?
I don't mean this to sound,
Well, then don't say it that way.
well, no, I want to say, well, no, I'm going to say to you, typically, based on my business experience, many towns that are especially tourist-driven or scenic towns have a very specific program. And in the past, I have found a good way to sometimes solve things is, for example, and I'm just going to say a town to give an example, is Kennebunkport, Maine. I know for a fact they have a very specific budget to enhance the look of their town. And I don't know if we have that, and to Sabette's point, in one place. But I will say that if you drive to towns that you feel strike you as looking pleasing and aesthetically pleasing and have a look, they have a very specific plan that takes care of that. I get it, there's only so much money, but it is consolidated and it's a very specific plan. And I think in Wolfeboro, I'm unclear, having lived here for a very long time, where I think some money is there or being spent, but I don't know where.
Suzanne?
This isn't taking anything away from what they're trying to do. It's simply raising it up front, 14,700, so that people know what they're voting for and how it's funded, and it clarifies it for the Board of Selectmen next year. When they do a new budget, they can say, well, how did this work? And
Sure.
put it in the budget.
All right, is there any further discussion on the amendment? All right, seeing none, I'll just read it one more time to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate not to exceed $14,700 in addition to the current Parks and Recreation budget to hire a landscaping company to maintain and support beautification in downtown areas such as the railroad station, town hall, and in front of the IGA as needed. This is a one-year lapsing appropriation program that's intended to replace the existing 37. So those in favor of that amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
All's opposed? So the ayes have it. Is there any further discussion on Article 37 as amended? Seeing none, move on to Article 38. To see if the town will vote to establish the Wolfeboro Parks and Recreation Commission under RSA 35B. Members shall be citizens of Wolfeboro and consist of 9 members appointed by the Board of Selectmen serving staggering terms of 3 years, with 1 member of the Board of Selectmen serving as ex officio pursuant to RSA 35B4. Wolfeboro Parks and Recreation Commission shall exercise the powers and duties vested in it in accordance with RSA 35B3, with any powers not so designated retained by the Board of Selectmen in the Wolfeboro Town Meeting. Further, pursuant to RSA 35B2, Roman numeral 2, establish a recreation revolving fund whose expenditures shall be for the sole purposes of parks and recreation. Said fund shall not be considered part of the town's unreserved fund balance, non-lapsing funds. This has no impact on the estimated tax rate. This is not recommended by the Board of Selectmen. And who would like to address this? Ann?
Hi, everybody. My name's Ann Blodgett. I present this citizens petition warrant article number 38 as a resident of Wolfeboro. I have no personal agenda, no desire to serve on this, but I want to make Wolfeboro a better place. That's my motivation. We want to use our wonderful and abundant resources more effectively and cooperatively. I will present this warrant article tonight as a beneficial solution. In other words, why? And then I will describe or envision its implementation, which is based on what I have learned from other towns who have instituted parks and recreation commissions. First of all, this is a no-cost to taxpayers warrant article. Its origin. In listening to a number of fellow citizens at the Master Plan public forums in 2018 and 19, I heard repeated suggestions that we needed a Parks and Recreation Commission. that did not move forward, but it has stuck in my mind. The intent of this warrant article follows those suggestions to support and to bring taxpayers' expertise to this department. Wolfeboro is a volunteering town with many caring and talented citizens who can help with planning, budgeting, and communication. I'd like to add that this commission is potentially an entry point for younger citizens to serve our town. Why now? The Wolfeboro Park, the very hard-working Wolfeboro Parks and Rec Department responsibilities and scope of work has grown exponentially in recent years. I calculated, or at least I tried to calculate in the budget what seems to be in excess of $1 million, but as I think we've learned tonight, some of Parks and Rec's numbers are in different places. So I believe the budget is for that department oversight is about $1 million, and that's without Pop Whalen. The many moving parts and the many different programs and sports is supported by a full-time staff of 3. In listening to various meetings over the last few years, I'm struck how many projects and challenges intersect with the wide scope of responsibilities of the Park and Rec Department. Therefore, under New Hampshire law, as cited in warrant article number 38, subject matter, there are provisions for implementations of a Parks and Recreation Commission. Many towns in New Hampshire, and try Googling it, have Park and Rec commissions, and they have forged their missions and bylaws in collaboration with their Board of Selectmen or the applicable governing body. Neighboring towns have successful Parks and Recs commissions, and frankly, many of us come from towns that had such commissions and have seen the long-term benefits of them. In speaking with Parks and Rec directors in other towns, the commissions and their town leaders have collaborated to deliver a more coordinated and efficient results for the towns. In speaking with voters in Wolfeboro, they either understand the value of instituting support of a commission, or they can't believe we don't already have a Parks and Rec Commission. Again, this is not a new idea and is a common and valued practice in New Hampshire. Alton and Tuftonboro have Parks and Rec Commissions. Ask your friends in those towns. So Jim Giuca, a Wolfeboro resident and former school principal in New Hampshire and Mass, offered his perspective and experience and stated the benefits, what the benefits of a commission would be. To support programs and kids, to offer non-policy type support, to be the eyes and ears in the community and offer feedback for the Recreation Department leaders, to support events and cast a wider net of influence for community engagement. To reiterate what Jim and others have said, not only will the commission support the department, but it brings different perspectives and expertise, additional vision and volunteer power, and gives the community and stakeholders a seat at the table. Here's how I envision it would work, or how I hear it works in other towns if this warrant article passes. The Board of Selectmen will appoint commission members from a pool of volunteers and collaborate on the drafting and implementation of the mission statement and bylaws. By the way, last week I submitted bylaws and other formative documents from other towns to the Board of Selectmen for their reference and to provide living examples of Parks and Rec commissions. The newly appointed commission and the Board of Selectmen will then work together on this implementation, and that's how other towns have done it successfully. Envision the up to 9 members of the appointed commission being made up of interested citizens who might also represent the NIC, Abenaki, Pop Whalen, the Senior Center, the Children's Center, Brewster, cross-country skiing, bike trails, pickleball, curling, Kingswood schools, and can include other sports or interests, members at large, and obviously will include a select person. This structure will enhance communications across the many assets and the different silos. In summary, our hardworking Wolfeboro Parks and Rec Department is tasked with so many diverse projects and many different directions. The scope of the department's responsibility has grown tremendously. To name a few of those challenges, the increased care and maintenance of more facilities, and we talked about the gardens already, need for staffing, the rigors of the kids' camp, demands by newer sports like curling and pickleball, the challenges of ADA compliance, the management and care of the beaches, the gardens, the cemeteries, the various other responsibilities that have become part of Parks and Rec departments, such as lighting and pathways, and special event coordination and more. The Parks and Rec Commission will support the department with coordination, planning, budgeting, communications, and the other multifaceted demands for the sake of the future of our town. The time is right to implement these added resources to our Parks and Rec department efforts with the commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann. Brody?
And thank you for your presentation. I just had two quick questions. My first one is, can you give an example of any towns within an hour of here that have a commission like this and about their population size? Oh, sorry. Oh, so people can hear. I've spoken to the side. Do you have an example of any towns within an hour of Wolfeboro that have Parks and Rec commissions, and do you have their populations?
Well, I don't know the populations of Alton and Tufton Borough, but both of them have commissions. And then if you Google Parks and Rec commissions in New Hampshire, it will load up with the numbers of towns. Some of them have town managers, some of them have town administrators. And some of them, their bylaws are all very different, but those can be forged in collaboration with the Board of Selectmen.
How big, well, state RSA obviously must permit anywhere from different numbers that this board can be comprised of, number of board members. Do you know what state RSA permits? Is it like 5, 7, and 9? Is it 3, 5, 7, 9?
It does not specify, but many commissions and boards are 7, 9, 11, whatever. So given the number of assets we have in Wolfeboro and the variety of different interests and so forth, I've pegged 9 as a starting point, which can obviously be changed later.
How big is Tufton Boroughs?
Their
Parks and Rec Commission.
I'm not sure, but I can get that to you.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions or comments on Article 38?
Randy?
Linda?
Yeah, I have. In 1972, the town of Wolfeboro adopted the town manager form of government. At that time, we had a water and sewer commission, a municipal electric commission, and a park and rec commission. Those commissions were done away with a change in the form of government. My issue with the warrant article is what can be included under 35-B1. They can, to acquire, hold, dispose of real estate and personal property, provide, however, the disposal of any real estate shall have priority and approval of the legislative body, make contracts, grant concessions, to make charges for the use of the facility or for participation, to make and enforce rules and regulations governing the use of town property, facilities, or equipment, and to conduct of people, to contract with any municipal corporation, government, private agency for conduct a park and recreation program, to operate jointly with other government entities and any facilities or property, including participation in the acquisition. And my concern here is the overlap between the roles of the town manager and the Board of Selectmen and this commission, and I would like an opinion from town attorney whether he sees any issue with this.
Nathan?
Sure. So I did speak with the Board of Selectmen at a work session. I think it was on January 18th. There are a couple of concerns that I raised regarding the provisions of this warrant article, specifically the way that it's worded essentially grants to the commission all of the powers that are identified in RSA 35B3, which was just identified by Linda. That includes, as part of 35B1, that the commission may employ an administrative officer and such other persons as it deems necessary to carry out the provisions of this chapter. And that appears to conflict with the town manager's responsibilities under 37.6 to exercise those powers and duties over employees of the town. So from my perspective, you have a potential conflict between those two provisions.
May I comment?
Sure.
Thank you. In my research with other towns, they forged with the Board of Selectmen, who has the ultimate authority, they forged the mission and the bylaws and the working principles. And the towns that I spoke with, and they were very free to say these documents did not measure up to the full extent of 35B. And so each town had forged their own way under the authority of the Board of Selectmen. So this is not taking away from the role of the town manager or the Board of Selectmen in other towns.
I guess what I would...
We'll try Linda first, then Nathan.
My feeling here is I'd have no problem having a recreation committee similar to Wolfeboro Waters that makes recommendations to the Board of Selectmen or the EDC. I am concerned with all the latitude that 35B gives to a commission.
Well, clearly other towns have found that that the collaborative design of the working principles and the scope of duties is accomplished at the outset. And then change, everything's dynamic in this life, and then things can change as things progress. So clearly others aren't living up to the full extent of 35B. I also wanted to add that it's not meant to conflict, it's meant to support.
Christine?
So I think I have a little concern with, you said establish a recreation revolving fund, but I think if the whoever came up with this whole plan, if they would have had a conversation with the Parks and Rec department, they would have found that we already have a revolving fund. Can I finish speaking first? Yeah. And also, most recreation commissions, from my experience, Tufton Borough, for example, only got a recreation director a couple years ago because they were a volunteer basis. I know Alton is a rec department of 2 employees. And other ones are more of like, I was from Milton and it was a recreation commission because it's a team of 1. So it's basically a group of volunteers that are helping. We have already Friends of Pop Whalen and Friends of Abenaki that kind of support our recreation department. So I just feel like if you want to offer me 9 people, I'd love 9 volunteers. I'd love 9 employees, but I don't think I need 9 people just pointing out what they want to see. Our doors are always open. We work with tons of different groups, the curling group, the pickleball group, the bike group. So we're already working with all those people. I guess if you're just trying to put them under one umbrella, but we are already doing all the things you have labeled in there.
Nathan, did you want to say something? Or?
So
I just have one more thing I wanted to say. Obviously, I don't know what the Warren article was or how the commissions were formed in the other towns that you identified. But in this one, it says that the Wolfeboro Parks and Recreation Commission shall exercise the powers and duties vested in it in accordance with RSA 35B3. So that's the powers that are being given to this Recreation Commission based on the Warren article. So I'm not sure you would be able to go back and change that unless you come back next year with a different Warren article authorizing different powers and duties.
it does say as authorized by the governing body, which is the Board of Selectmen.
But in the first place, you're giving them all the powers as part of this. So I think that's where you've got a conflict as to what powers are actually being provided by the legislative body.
I'm busy.
All right, Brian? do you know?
With my limited research, I haven't been able to find a Parks and Rec commission in a town with a town manager form of government. I've only seen them with town administrators. I've only looked a little bit.
Sorry, Bedford and Plastow,
So there's two.
at least. I mean, and, you know, there's so many with Parks and Rec commissions that it would have taken me.
Most of the ones with commissions seem to have town administrators. I don't know why. Nathan would know more than I would, of course.
Well, as a fact, because there are 221 towns in New Hampshire, and only 12 have town managers.
All right, so I had Suzanne first, then Bobby, then you, Warren. But she's deferring to you, so I'll let Warren stand up here. Well, watch your feet.
I'm Warren Buer, and I don't want to speak to the substance of the article, but I want to say, as a taxpayer, I'm going to come in here, and there are going to be 40 articles to vote on. And the format of what you have here is that it says it was not recommended by the Board of Selectmen by a vote of 5-0. On all the others, it would be 0-5. So I would propose that it be read, but not recommended by a vote of 0-5.
Okay, and so Suzanne and then Bobby.
To the attorney, yes or no? Is it illegal?
Is what illegal?
This warrant article.
Is the warrant article illegal?
I know it overlaps, you've made that clear, although I disagree with you because there are other towns with town managers, and they have established them under 35B, whatever the number is. They're written the same way. I've looked at the warrant articles from other towns, and they're drafted the same way. After they've passed, they then coalesce with the Board of Selectmen and determine specifically what that would be. This is saying they can do up to so much, but they have to sit with the Board of Selectmen and figure out what this is all going to be about. My question to you, is it illegal, yes or no?
I don't think it's a simple yes.
The way it's written.
I don't think it's a simple yes or no, because I don't think the warrant article as drafted does what you suggest that it does. I think it grants all of the powers in 35B3.
You haven't answered my question. Is it illegal?
No.
I think he's answered as
If it
best
gets
he can.
voted in, is it illegal?
Is the article itself illegal? I can't tell you whether it's
All right.
illegal or not. What I'm saying is it's
I
gonna,
see you can't give me an answer, so why don't we just let the voters decide and then hash it out?
We will. All right, Bobby.
So I didn't plan to speak on this either, but I think in the room tonight we learned why we need this. We actually had 2 individuals get up here this evening and make an addition to our budget of $100,000 for an ice rink, and then our director got up and couldn't speak on that. So essentially these 2 people would have been sitting on this board that we as citizens don't have oversight on. This would give us the oversight to sit with the 2 individuals who got up here and talk about why we're adding that $100,000. So I think the proof tonight happened in this room.
All right, any further comments? So, Brody?
I'd like to make an amendment to change the number 9 to 5.
All right. There a second to that?
To change the number 9 to 5.
The number 9 members of the board to 5 members of the board. All right, is there any discussion on the amendment? It's pretty clear. All right.
I think I looked at the state RSA just now. It doesn't specify a number. I felt maybe some people would think 3 is too little. I think 9 is, it's a party. There's too much. You know, you couldn't even get 9 people to volunteer for the board. We struggle to get people to volunteer for 3-member boards. I'm doubtful you fill all 5 unless it's with those specific groups that the Parks and Rec director is already working with daily without the commission. But
Can I comment on that? A number of people have said they'd raise their hands. They'd be happy to volunteer for this.
Yeah.
So, Bob, did you want to weigh in on that? If you
Hold on.
Move the question. You're good, Bob.
You're on now.
Who is?
They'll get you the mic. There we go. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you so much. Am I on? Okay. Brody, I went through the RSA, and I believe it does state it has to be 9 members that are originally appointed by the Board of Selectmen, and then they come up for elections similar to the mechanism of the Budget Committee. 3 come up every year, 3 for three-year terms. I would have to check the RSA on that to see if it could be legally done. Thank you, sir.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that? All right, well, all those in favor of changing 9 to 5, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
All right, that amendment fails. Is there any further discussion on Article 38? The question's been moved, but rather than do that, I'm moving to 39. By petition of 25 or more eligible voters of the town of Wolfeboro to see if the town will vote to prohibit expending town funds for the purpose of taking action towards the banning of books or any other content from our Wolfeboro Public Library, thereby guaranteeing our citizens their First Amendment rights and their rights under the under the New Hampshire Constitution, Article 22, free speech, liberty of press. Additionally, to see if the town will direct the selectmen of the town of Wolfeboro to urge the New Hampshire General Court to stop all actions, including House and Senate bills, infringing upon First Amendment rights as explained in the 1939 Library Bill of Rights, the 1953 Freedom to Read Statement, and the 1999 Libraries and American Value. The record of this vote approving this article shall be transmitted by written notice from the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to our New Hampshire state legislators and our Carroll County attorney, informing the vote of the March 14, 2023 town election within 30 days. This has no impact on the tax rate recommended by the Board of Selectmen on a vote of 5-0. And who would like to address this one? Bobby?
So sadly, we would not think that in 2023 we would need to have a petition warrant article saying we will not be banning books from our libraries. But unfortunately, we have a representative that actually represents us who put forth a bill at our legislature, HB 514, specifically banning books and materials from our libraries. It does not specify what kind of libraries. It actually says government libraries on it too. I think we can all agree that this was settled in 1939, that we have the right to go to our library and read a book. So this is just stating that we are basically sending the message that we don't condone banning books in our library.
All right, any discussion on Article 39? Seeing none, we will move on to our last and final article. Are you in favor of authorizing the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to, 1, accept the mountain bike trails construction on town-owned parcels of land known as the Abenaki Recreation Area in Wolfeboro Spayfields with a donation, construction cost and values of $170,986. 2, to determine what is in the best interest of the town and said properties for future development of the mountain bike trail system, and to authorize the selectmen to enter into a legally binding agreement with the Wolfeboro Single Track Alliance to operate and maintain the Abenaki Recreation Area in Wolfeboro Sprayfield Mountain Bike Trail System, and 3, to accept up to $300,000 in financial donation for future mountain bike trail development. This has no impact on our estimated tax rate. The selectmen basically voted to abstain on this one. And Chris, would you like to start us off?
Yes, and I'll try to keep it short. The It's a lot later than I thought it was going to be. So I am Chris Dow. I'm standing here as the president of the Wolfeboro Single Track Alliance. Over the past year, we've worked with the Board of Selectmen to get to this point where we can let the town decide if they would like to have some bike trails in the woods for people to enjoy on their mountain bikes, on their snowshoes, on their feet. I know there's people in here that go trail running on these trails. So, you know, I'd like to make an amendment to this with a couple pieces of wording based off feedback from the town attorney and the Board of Selectmen. But in general, I think, you know, the goal of this and the whole many meetings is to get to the point where the town can really get to see what we've put into this. And, you know, we'd love to continue to work with the Board of Selectmen to make these trails better and expand upon them. So, and that's the two amendments I would have are to the cost, which would be $164,512.59, because one of the requests was to provide documentation on the receipts of everything. And given the short time frame, that was the easily identifiable receipts that I could find and scan into PDF and send. So that would be the number. And then the other one is to accept up to $300,000, that last line, to change it to accept further financial donations for future mountain bike trail development. And that was just a legal thing of not having to bind and accept a specific amount. So we would work with the Board of Selectmen, obviously, for any future work.
All right. Is there a second to that amendment? Second. All right. So and I've been presented with the amendment, and as Chris noted, the two changes that he'd subsequently like to make is to change the $170,000 number in there down to $164,512.59. And then on number 3 at the bottom, to delete the $300,000 number and add in rather accept further financial donations but not limit it to the $300,000. And I'll read the entire amendment with those changes. You had a couple of the little stylistic changes, but those were the substantive ones. So it would now read, are you in favor of authorizing the Wolfeboro Board of Selectmen to, 1, accept the mountain bike trails constructed on town-owned parcels of land known as the Abenaki Recreational Area in Wolfeboro Sprayfields with a donated construction cost and value of $164,512.59. 2, determine what is in the best interest of the town and said properties for future development of the mountain bike trail system, and to authorize the selectmen to enter into legal and binding agreements with the Wolfeboro Single Track Alliance to operate and maintain the Abenaki Recreation Area and Wolfeboro Sprayfield mountain bike trail system. And 3, accept further financial donations for future mountain bike trail developments. That's the entire amendment to basically replace what is there. Is there any discussion on the amendment at all? Second. We already had that. Just any discussions on it, though? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye. Aye. All right. Any opposed? Seeing none, the amendment carries. Is there any further discussion on Article 40 as amended? Suzanne.
I have a question for the Board of Selectmen as to why they abstained on any recommendation. Typically, a recommendation is made on money articles. That aside, from your experience dealing with this subject, why did you not give the voters some direction?
Because we're waiting for more information from the Single Track Alliance. We're waiting for some tax returns and some other things that haven't come forward.
So the warrant article's premature?
I won't say that. I'm just saying we're waiting for more information.
Any further questions or discussion regarding Article 40? Seeing none, is there any new business? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We are adjourned.